Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's show was recorded on February the 6th, 2018. I'm your host, gaming psychologist, and with me, as always, the immortal in my heart,
Caffeine Rage.
That'll make sense when we talk about games. On today's show, we're going to be discussing our upcoming episode 100 and what we've got planned for that. We're going to be talking about the games that we've played. We are going to pitch a game. We will be having our weekly community corner and our Steam weekly discovery queue. Timestamps will be in the show notes following their respective topics. Hello, Rage. How are you?
I'm doing all right. It's kind of just a standard evening for me. Slowly trying to get back into a normal sleep cycle. Well, normal for me. I have what's considered a normal sleep cycle right now, and I don't like it.
Yeah, you've been in bed normally when I expect you to be awake.
Well, last night I just had my back act up, and that's fun.
Yeah, you just kind of disappeared, and I assumed that the pain was so much that you hit yourself in the head with a mallet and went to sleep.
Don't I wish?
Yeah.
But yeah, the joys of being fat and crippled, and already having a bad back, it does wonders on it.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, I've been having a normal week. Everyone in my house is once again sick.
You're running around with a can of Lysol?
I emptied 2 cans of Lysol today, and I ran out of Lysol, so I made some disinfectant spray out of like vinegar and Pine Sol and water and some other ingredients that the internet said would make a good disinfectant, and then used 2 spray bottles of that, like a Windex size bottle, you know, like the empty ones you can just buy at Lowe's. I had a couple of those lying around, and I used 2 of those, and I've disinfected almost everything in the house. And almost every room, and I did like 8 loads of laundry today. I'm so tired of everyone being sick.
In other words, you've had enough of these motherfucking germs in your motherfucking house.
Yes, exactly. So that was a fun day. And the only room that still remains contaminated is the bedroom, our bedroom, because Katie's been in there sleeping all day, and she's still sick. She's just been a walking plague. She's patient zero, I think. She's been sick since before Christmas with one malady or another. She's had like 3 or 4 doctor's visits in the last month.
I'm no expert, but this doesn't sound healthy.
We had a trip to the hospital, which that one was like, I don't think I told that to anyone, actually. Cat's out of the bag. I mean, it wasn't a big deal. She had an allergic reaction to one of the medications she was on. So I guess it was kind of a big deal. We went to the hospital, but everything was fine. It's fine. But it's just been a fun, crazy week. And my body has been holding up pretty well, given the circumstances. But this weekend, it just kind of crapped out on me. And I slept for like 2 days straight. Or as much of that as you can do when you're Mr. Mom. So we didn't really do anything over the weekend. Like, I was fine Thursday night. We streamed and hung out and stuff. And then I woke up Friday morning and went, well, I guess it's my turn.
Again.
And I took a nap Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I slept, and I took a nap today, actually. But that was because I was tired, not because I felt bad. But I went to bed early every night. For me, early's like 12:30 or 1 a.m. Normally, I stay up until 2:30 or 3. Got a lot of extra sleep. I think, my voice might give out during the middle of this, but the only symptom that I really have left is a little bit of stuffiness and a sore throat. So I've got tea, I've got water, room temperature water. I've learned my lesson on that one. It only took me 2 years of podcasting to do it, but I've learned my lesson on that one.
At most cool.
I only drink room temperature water when recording now. So,
and remember, I told you this, episode 1?
Long time ago. I like really cold drinks.
Yeah, but it shocks the throat too much.
It does. I mean, you'd think my throat would be used to being shocked by now. Hey-o. So,
see, the problem is that this is a lot less viscous than the fluid you're used to in your throat.
But also viscous, good word.
Thank you.
Did you watch the Falcon Heavy launch today?
Yes, I watched it live.
Okay, I missed it live, but I watched it shortly afterwards.
Yeah,
that was pretty awesome.
Fucking amazing.
Yes.
Has there been any news about the Central Core? Because that was still up in the air or not. See. Last I heard, they hadn't released anything official. I'm assuming that it crashed, considering they didn't release any info about it soon thereafter the stream. But yeah,
well, that's the one that they've always had the most trouble with, right? Because that's the one that comes back and lands on the drone ship.
Well, this is a heavily modified version of it, and the drone ship is very little margin of error.
Yeah, it was coming in for a proper landing, and then the cameras shut off, which that's happened before when it's landed properly. Just the force of the rocket coming back in blows the cameras off or disrupts the signal. So, but at the time that I watched it, which was I think an hour, I didn't see anything about it. So, as far as I know, still no information on that. But it was beautiful to see the two booster rockets come back and land simultaneously. I actually shed a couple of tears at how.
I just got some info. According to this, it failed to launch to land on the drone.
Okay.
There's no video of it yet. I imagine that there was cameras all over the fucking place there.
Yeah, it'll be released eventually. I mean, they've shown us plenty of their failures before, so I don't know why this one would be any different.
I mean, they made a failure montage.
Yeah. But anyways, like I was saying, I actually shed a couple of tears watching the two first stages come back and land together. Just like...
Yeah, Scott Manley actually had a video, and he was saying that they wouldn't be landing simultaneously. I'm not sure where he got his info. At least I think it was Scott Manley that was talking about it earlier today. So, that was a bit of a surprise for me because I was expecting it, there to be a slight delay between the two, but no, simultaneous.
Yeah, I mean, there might have been like a couple of seconds, but damn. Well, that was so cool.
Well, if memory serves, Scott Manley was saying a 15-second delay.
Yeah, it definitely was not 15 seconds.
Yeah.
Because I was watching the playback of the live stream, so there wouldn't be any post-editing on that. Well, probably not. But if you watched it live, then yeah, there's definitely no editing on it. So. Well,
that's what they want you to think.
Right, because the Earth's flat, and it's just a big pencil or something like that.
Yeah, that there's no way that it can fly like that because you can't fly a pencil like that. Granted, that's the most prominent of. Is dumbass a politically correct term here?
Who cares?
Okay, dumbass.
Yeah, when have we ever been really politically correct?
I don't know. When the fuck have we?
I don't think we've ever been politically correct. Maybe I have a little bit here and there because I'm a sensitive guy and have a sensitive career, but...
Well, not anymore.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I've been barred. It's a good thing I have a good sense of humor. Some might have seen that as a low blow. Although I like it low. Wink.
Yeah, I mean, is it possible to give you a low blow if... Well, wait a minute.
I mean, if you kick me in the nuts, I won't enjoy that. But if there's
at least at the moment.
If there's just some general fondling, I'd be okay with that. You might not be, but I would.
I think I need an adult.
Anyways, it was just like I said like 3 minutes ago. It was just nice. It's beautiful to see science in action. There's so much, particularly in American news, about how, Trump is dismantling the beautiful science. I don't want to say industry, but that's wrong. But
but at least we have a beautiful, clean coal still.
It was just so nice. I was like, something beautiful from science.
Yeah, there was actually this kind of ties in a little bit back into the podcast, so we're actually somewhat on topic. There was a little bit of discussion back and forth about this being a PR stunt with the Tesla. And yeah, it is a PR stunt. It's trying to get people to pay attention to space once again. And it worked. There was a lot more attention to this launch than I think there would have been otherwise.
Yeah. It was also, I saw something beautiful happening actually in YouTube comments of all things, where people who were like, I'm not a rocket scientist, but I play Kerbal Space Program, and here's how this works. Because people were like, whoa, this is really cool. They've sent a car into space, but I don't understand half the terms that they're saying. And I was like, wow, people in YouTube comments are being nice?
Yeah.
I mean, granted, there were plenty of dickheads in there too, but...
And people claiming that it's fake,
Yeah.
I mean, Kerbal Space Program is probably one of the better teaching tools out there for space travel. because it will teach you, or you'll just continuously blow up on the launch pad. It forces you to learn at least the very basics of rocket science.
Yeah.
And
I'm not going to lie, after watching today's launch, I kind of wanted to play KSP a little bit.
yeah,
I didn't.
Pick up my save file from the game club, but I have other things to play right now.
Yeah, me too.
Speaking of which,
that would be a good segue to games we played.
Yeah, unfortunately.
We're going to talk about episode 100 first. So, coming up in 2 weeks, as long as nothing happens, because we're pretty sure this is episode 98 that we're recording right now.
On my list it's 98.
Okay, so coming up in 2 weeks, we have our official episode 100. Technically, since we've never missed a week because we've done Franken episodes and then we have non-numbered shows occasionally.
Yeah, we're well
way
past
episode
100. But this is the numbered series.
Right, so this is the only one that counts. So for episode 100, we are going to be introducing 2 new
reoccurring topics.
Reoccurring topics, yeah. Kind of like how we do Pitch a Game. Every once in a while, we're going to bring this topic back up. And you and I have spent a couple of weeks putting these together. And like a fool, I don't have the episode 100 list pulled up. Do you have that pulled up? Or...
I didn't have the tab open.
Okie dokie.
But yeah, we have 2 major topics. We have Mount Rushmore, which is going to be a topical topic, as in the Mount Rushmore of something. I lovingly stole this from another podcast that stole it from another podcast, and this has been around so many times that the trademark is completely worn off of it, so we're stealing it.
Yep. It's entered the public domain.
So pretty much, the 4, not best, I would say probably the best term for this would be influential, or the key players. And we have a long list of ideas for Mount Rushmores. We haven't actually sat down and discussed exactly which one we're going to do for 100, but we have a few good suggestions already. But if you have more, you have about a week to get it in.
Yeah, and this is going to cover a wide range of topics in the gaming industry. For example, we've got genres, so, first-person shooter, RPG, the Mount Rushmore of those particular genres. We've talked about doing game developers. We've talked about doing the Mount Rushmore for a decade, like the 90s or the 2000s.
And I would say probably for 100, do a general Mount Rushmore, your 4 most influential things in gaming.
Yeah. So we're gonna
it's not set in stone.
Right. The other nice one. Nice. The other major recurring topic that we're putting together is, we don't have a good name for it, but it's a sort of a history
corner.
Yeah, a history corner and personal experience with certain developers. And for episode 100, we've each chosen 2 developers, which I'm not going to spoil now. That we're going to go briefly discuss the history of the company or developer or publisher, talk about our personal experience with it, and talk about where we think that where they're going in the future.
One of mine is going to be very easy for the future.
We sort of springboarded this idea off of something that we heard on the Co-optional podcast, where they were talking about what game developers today, despite or in spite of or ignoring the bullshit industry trends, still make games for gamers. And we sat down and we rolled this idea around for 3 weeks?
I would say more than that, because this has been kind of out there for quite a while.
But so we've workshopped this idea, we fine-tuned it.
And then we threw all that in.
Yeah. And then we
threw it all out and bullshit.
Yeah. We'll come up with a better name for it by the time this actually rolls around.
History Corner, I think, is a good working title, at least.
I think so. That's better than what we originally had.
Like we had something before?
I think I threw out an idea and we laughed because it was stupid, but I don't remember because
it was stupid.
I can't remember if that was the night that I was on drugs or that you were tired and didn't feel good.
I think that was the same night.
Okay. Well, regardless, we're having those 2 large topics for episode 100. And also, the reason we're putting this out there now is, number 1, if you guys want to comment on, either give us ideas or, throw something at us related to these 2 topics, go for it. Also, if any of our longer term listeners, or newer listeners, I suppose, want to chip in some letters, audio, or some special tweets for episode 100, we'd love to have some stuff from you guys. I might be doing some arm twisting.
Oh, my.
I'm going to twist those arms.
That would be vglpodcast@gmail.com or vglpodcast on the Twitter.
Indeed. This has been a long journey, and I know some of you have been with us pretty much since the beginning.
And we're sorry.
So we'd love to hear from you guys.
I mean, we still have our core from Kerbalcast.
Indeed.
Indeed. Maybe we could kidnap Biff.
Oh, God. Really kidnap Biff? Like, physically mount a kidnapping attempt?
Oh, why not?
I've got a lot more free time here lately.
Even though maybe that's who Elon Musk launched. Because I've been trying to figure this out. I first thought Jimmy Hoffa, but then I ruled that out because it's too obvious.
It's definitely not Biff because the Starman wasn't fat enough.
Yeah, but we haven't seen Biff in a while. He could have been in hiding and, without food.
Maybe. Seems unlikely, but maybe.
Plus, compression, just... they sewed the suit onto him.
It was
skin tight.
It was the Stig from Top Gear.
But enough of this foolishness. Games we played?
Indeed. Let's go talk about the large, long list of games that we played. This week, even though we don't have, giant lists, we have 4 games apiece, but a couple of them for each of us are going to be pretty long, and I don't want my voice to wear out, so we're going to alternate this week.
Well, I'm not sure if any of mine are particularly long. There's 3 of them that kind of triggered, let's see, I'm going to borrow the George Carlin quote. I don't have pet peeves, I have psychotic fucking hatreds.
I'd love to laugh at that, but I'm actually holding it back because I don't want to make crazy coughing noises, but that was quite funny. Call back to George Carlin. Yeah. Anyways, now I've completely ruined the joke by talking about it instead of just laughing. Carry on.
Yeah, I really miss George Carlin these days.
I do too.
But let's start off with Paradox Wrench. This is a indie game that tries desperately to be Portal, right down to you're a test subject and there's a voiceover that's, trying to be funny in this case. And you're given a gun in first person, it was a first person pseudo-physics platformer. They do not explain a fucking thing about how the mechanics work in this game. At all. This is actually a candidate for drop it like a hot rock for me. I spent about 10 minutes on it and then I was done. But it pissed me off so much that I'm talking about it. Okay. If you look at the screenshots of this, you would think, okay, Portal, you shoot things and, things happen. Yeah. No. You would be wrong, mostly. A large chunk of the physics in this game is tied to the color of your gun. As in, you could see it in the trailer. Certain platforms that are colored are only solid when your gun matches them, and they do not fucking explain that. I spent most of the, I guess I played more than 10 minutes. It doesn't show the exact time I played. Jumping on the same 2 platforms, trying to figure out, okay, why the fuck is this solid now and it wasn't before? Because I wasn't getting the, making the connection in my head, because it also has this mechanic where you could shoot things, but it's only certain blocks that you're able to color. And it made absolutely no sense. And the voiceover doesn't even try to help you. The voiceover is just telling you riddles the entire time. The one that I remember is, what has no beginning and no end? Do you want to care to answer that one?
What has no beginning and no end?
Mm-hmm. I mean, you would think, based on the name of the game, it would be a paradox, right?
Yeah.
A donut.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, you could tell.
I guess technically I could see that because a donut is round.
I respectfully disagree, because if you have a donut near me, it has a fucking end.
I see what you did there.
But beyond the rather frustrating color mechanics, they also have it where there's like in the third chamber, there's a section of it that has inverted gravity, and you have to swap all the colors around. It's a classic case of one to be Portal and not learning a fucking lesson from Portal and how it handles its tutorials, and Portal's actually a good chunk tutorial when you sit down and break it down. Very subtle tutorial for most of it. There are some, hard tutorial, jump from here to here to do this. But then there's design cues with how they design jumps and the lighting in the game. Another thing about this game, getting off that is also how they texture it, but I'll get into that. In this, there's no cues. It's purely the game designer is able to figure it out because they designed it that way. And I'm not sure if there's been any fucking playtesting on this at all. If there is, then they had direct contact with the game designer. Or maybe I'm just stupid. I mean, that's the other possibility.
It looks really difficult to parse, and maybe this isn't exactly what you're talking about, but everything is in grayscale except for the colored blocks.
That's what I was going to get to, is that the second chamber, I was having trouble trying to judge a jump because there's a tile texture on the ground, on the floor, and all the walls are the same tone of gray, and there's no real shading to them. So if you're looking at a jump straight on, all the shapes kind of meld together into this blob of gray.
Yeah, in even the trailer video, there's a scene where he stacks up 2 blocks to jump onto a platform, and the first time I watched it, I didn't realize he was jumping to a platform because all of the walls are the same color.
Yeah, it's
so
fucking
you can't
atrocious.
See the platform. Yeah, that's terrible. Anyways, carry on.
Yeah, I mean, I've loaded this up expecting, maybe a slightly decent Portal ripoff, which these have been popping up quite a bit recently, haven't they?
Yeah, feels like it. Because you've talked about several in the last few weeks.
Yeah. These have been, and I can understand why, because Portal was a very popular game, and there hasn't really been another really good game in this genre that I know of. The closest I can think of is Quantum Conundrum, and it was fucking frustrating because, well, for one, they left a cliffhanger, and then the studio kind of died. But also, some of the puzzles were a bit iffy and the physics weren't quite as polished as they should be. But this, no. Hard pass. Fuck you.
Yeah, it looks very poorly designed.
I mean, I think this is a one-man dev team, the design team is a guy's name, so that should tell you something. And let's put it this way. He has a lot of titles. Most of them are in the mixed range. And honestly, none of them look particularly good. I have to admit, probably the best looking one out of this games is Not Without My Poop.
I'm sorry, what?
It's about a dung beetle.
Oh, okay. That only makes it slightly better.
And rolling this giant ball of shit. And it actually could be interesting. And I actually got a review code of it as well, but seeing that it's made by the same guy, I'm not holding my breath for it to be any good. But I mean, some of his games are, pretty much just almost Atari era graphics, which isn't a knock on the game right away, but you have to have good game design these days if you're going to have graphics that crude.
Yeah.
So anyway. In summary, no, sir, I don't like it.
That is very fair. Okie dokie.
Hey, I gave it a shot at least.
Well, I quite like my first game, and that is Civilization 6. The January Humble Monthly had Civ 6 and all of its so far released DLC, which I think there's 2 DLC packs. The Australia pack and something else. For $12 plus whatever else you got for the monthly. And I got it specifically for Civ 6. And boy, oh boy, do I like Civ 6. I've got a few issues with it, and we'll get to those. But in general, Civ 6 is... It took them... Well, I guess there's Civilization Beyond Earth, but that was sort of an evolution of Civ 5 as opposed to a new game. And it took, 5-6 years for them to release Civ 6?
Civ 5 launched in, I think, 2010, so... But expansion, so let's call it about 5 years. 5 or 6.
Right. So, base Civ 6 compared to base Civ 5 is normally what happens is the base game is not as good as the previous game with its expansions. But I think the base game of Civ 6 is better than Civ 5's with its expansions. My kid, sorry. Because they improved almost everything. They changed a couple of the systems for the better. They added the way that the religious system works in Civ 6, building your own religion and religious combat and all of that jazz. At first I didn't like that, but once I kind of got a handle on it, it's really interesting and good and makes for interesting dynamic gameplay. I've played 3 full games so far. I did the first game on one of the lower difficulties. There's Settler, which is difficulty 1. I think it's War Chief or Chieftain, that's difficulty 2. I played my first game on that difficulty just so I could get used to the way that the game handles and the district system, which is 100% new and different than anything in any other Civ game before. And the districts are really, really good. So in older Civ games, everything is sort of built in your city center. You have your improvement tiles that you get with your workers, which has, evolved over the years. But basically that was all that you did that was outside of your city center was improvement tiles. Now you have the districting system, and each wonder is built on a separate hex within your city limit, whichever city you build it in. And by and large, that's a really good improvement to the game. Previously, with everything being built in your city center, all of your cities just sort of became an amalgamation of everything. And it didn't really encourage varied gameplay in my experience. Putting cities in different places or changing the way you actually progress through.
There's a couple of Civs that kind of do that. The Incas do.
But what I'm getting at basically is that every city sort of turns out the same.
Yeah, okay, I can see games.
That. And with the districting system, I mean, if the game goes on long enough, eventually your cities get big enough that you can pretty much build every district. But especially in the early to mid game, depending on what strategy you're going for, the Civ you have some very wildly differing cities. Also, you can tackle problems a lot faster with the district system. Because, say, for example, you're behind on science or culture, and you've got a couple of cities that aren't really doing very much, and you can build some districts. If you're behind on culture, you build the campus district, which allows you to build science buildings. And because these districts, all of the buildings in the districts now have the same output for each building that you put in. What I mean by that is that, like, if you build a building in a science district, it's always going to be plus 10 science, as opposed to the other Civ games where it was all based on your population and things like that. So if you've got a city that's in a really shitty spot for population, but you're behind on science, build a science district in that city. Build it up really quickly, and then you can boost your science that way. And you can do that for your economy. You can do that for troop production. You can still build, like, the factory district and things like that so that you can really boost a city's output, but you tend to only build those in cities that already have a really high production, because those tend to be your unit producing cities and things like that. But just the districts add a really wide variety of gameplay. They allow you to specify cities for what you want them to be, and you can really focus on that for a long time. They give you a good catch-up mechanic if you find yourself behind, because one of the biggest problems that Civ has is that typically in the mid-game, you have 1 or 2 people that are sort of running away with it because they got a lucky start, or they won a war early on, or something like that. And it's like, okay, those people are going to be the winners. The district system gives you a nice catch-up mechanic, among some other things that help mitigate that problem to make the game more fair, which I'll talk about in a minute. But overall, the districts are amazing. The wonders do the same thing. You have to build wonders on tiles now instead of them just being built in your city, which can be frustrating at times, but it really does make city planning a lot more important than it was in the past, which I like, because, again, it goes to I could build a wonder on this tile, but in order to do that, I'm going to lose this resource, because it'll remove my encampment that I have here, or it'll remove, my silver mine or whatever. Do the benefits of this wonder outweigh losing whatever for this city. And I mean, sometimes, you can just buy a tile that you don't have any improvements on, or use like a desert tile or something. But most of the wonders have specific placements, like to closely match as close as possible where the real world wonder is. Like, for example, the Sydney Opera House has to be built next to a harbor district. So you can't just build the Sydney Opera House in the middle of the desert.
Not with attitude, you can't.
And then conversely, you have to build the pyramids, the Great Pyramids, on a desert. So that's pretty fascinating. I mentioned catch-up mechanics before, and sort of having a more balanced start. The game has got a lot more options for giving you more balanced starts. I mean, you can just kind of throw everything into classic Civ mode, and it's all random, and if you get a shitty start, then you either have to really work hard to make up for it, or you're fucked. But you can, when you generate the map, you can tell it to give everyone balanced starting areas so that your first 2 or 3 cities, everyone will be on a level playing field. Which that's really nice too, because there's nothing worse than starting a game of Civ and you get, I don't know, an hour in and you discover that you have no resources around you.
Yeah, I'm kind of fighting that in my Civ 5 playthrough right now on YouTube.
Yeah, and then you discover, another half an hour in, well, I'm, in an oasis and everything around me is desert or tundra. So that's really nice to feel like at least you get an even start. The Civ bonuses, I feel like, are less unique than they used to be. I think that was done in favor of balance. I mean, there's still some Civs that have some pretty good bonuses, like the British now with Victoria. Once you hit a certain point in your tech tree or research a certain civic, I can't remember which it is, which civics weren't in Civ 5, were they? The governing
they were
policies?
Different. Because civics are kind of cards now instead of just a generic tech tree, essentially, or sub-tech tree.
Right, which is really good. I'll talk about that in a minute, too. But, for example, Victoria, once you get a certain civic, every new city that you get, whether you capture it or build it, starts with a free infantry unit spawning inside of it. So when you're at war with Victoria, if you're winning, you get sort of this snowball effect of every city you capture gives you a free military unit with which you can immediately turn around and start attacking the person you just captured a city from. Trajan for the Romans, they probably have, just based on reading them, I haven't played with all the civs yet, but they have what's called the Roman Road civic. And every city that you build that can be connected to your capital via a trade route starts, like, it immediately builds a road between your capital and that city, which is extremely powerful in the early game because you can be a lot more mobile and move forces around from city to city. So, I mean, there's a couple of outliers, but for the most part, all of the Civs bonuses have been toned down a little bit, which I think that's, again, has been done in the nature of balance. I don't know if they'll balance out some of the ones that are a little more powerful, but there could be some pretty good counters to that stuff. I've only played the Americans, the British, and the Romans. So I'll see as time goes on if other civs have bigger bonuses. The civic system has been completely redone. There's less government types than there have been in the past, but they each have basically civic card slots, which you research using culture points that you generate. And the civic cards do all kinds of stuff, so you can mix and match your government. And this also is a good catch-up mechanic, because there's civics specifically that help players that are behind versus those that are ahead. And there's civics to mitigate all kinds of stuff. Like, if you're in a prolonged war and your population is starting to get unhappy, you can change up some of your government policies to reduce the war weariness penalty, so your citizens will not be so unhappy, or give you bonus happiness from amenities, which happiness is done city by city now instead of across your entire...
Yeah, that I like.
That is really good, because you can just... If you have one city that's really unhappy, just pop a trade route to them, and that bumps their happiness up, because now they have access to the wider variety of luxury goods in your civilization. There's also a district that helps with happiness. It's the entertainment district. That one's really useful.
What, not the red light district?
Well, that might be a... Then there's the religion system, and the religion system is really useful. I haven't won a game with a religious system yet. I've won a science victory, a military victory, and a cultural victory. I haven't done the religious one yet. But the religion adds a whole new layer of strategy to the game because there's a lot of mix and match bonuses you can do with your religion. Whenever you get enough holy points or religious points or whatever it is, I think it's worship points. Whenever you get enough worship points, you unlock a pantheon, which is like the first step to religion, and that's a bonus that you have in all of your cities to start with. And it can be like this certain type of tile produces one more food, or
Yeah, that's pretty much how it worked in the previous game.
right. Then as you build your religious system and you get to create your own religion, which my religion is always sex perverts, you can continue to add bonuses on top of that one. And there's a certain maximum level you can reach, but you can get an additional 3 bonuses. So you can mix and match that to suit the type of gameplay that you want to have. And they get incredibly powerful. Like, holy sites can generate bonus science and production, and temples can provide housing or happiness and things like that. There's also like trade bonuses you can get. If you're going for a religious victory, you're probably going to go for the things that generate additional religious points. But that's a really nice mix and match, and is also a good catch-up mechanic if you can keep all of your own cities within your own religion, because whichever religion a city follows is the bonuses that they get. So even if you're not going for a religious victory, it pays to have enough religion being generated within your culture to keep your cities as religious cities, or as your religion. That way that you can get the bonuses that suit your playstyle. All that's been added has been the religious combat system, which allows you to create missionaries and apostles and a few other units to spread your religion to other cultures, and to stamp out other cultures' religion within your culture.
How's that different from Fives?
Did 5 have religious combat?
Not direct, but you had essentially pressure generated by the population. And as it ran along trade routes and throughout your civ, it could push out offending religions, or other religions. But also you could build inquisitors and missionaries to stamp out certain religions, but also spread yours to others. Which there's some benefit to having other civs get your religion, because you could build it around a certain if a certain population follows your religion, both your civ and others, you can get bonus gold, or a certain amount of happiness if a percentage of the world has your religion, that sort of thing.
Okay, so what's been added is there are additional units. There's, I think, 6 units in total. There's gurus, which can heal any unit, the military, civilian, or other religious units. There's the Inquisitor, which can stamp out other religions and is one of the stronger religious combat units, because you can fight other people's religious people.
Yeah, that's something that was fucking annoying in 5, was that if you got someone that was trying heavily to push their religion, you had to pretty much go to full war to be able to stop them, because their missionaries would just come and come and come. Which unless they're into Catholicism,
Well, religious wars can start real wars, but there's no penalty, and religious units can go anywhere, even if you don't have open borders, because they're not military units. So you can have a religious war without having a real war. But so anyways, there's gurus, there's inquisitors, there's apostles, which are the only units that can increase your religion's power, so you can get additional bonuses. And apostles can do basically everything, but they're incredibly expensive religious units. There's missionaries.
Sort of the equivalent of the Great Prophet?
Sort of, yeah. Which, you can still get great profits, but they're just wrapped up as great people now, so they give you, bonuses like other great people do. But apostles, missionaries, which work exactly as before. And there's one special religious unit that someone gets that I can't remember who it is, and they can actually do both religious proselytizing and actual combat against combat units. And then there's the monk, which can also do that. I think it's the monk. So it's just an expanded system. It works differently. I don't have as much experience with the religion system in Civ 5 because I got the expansions way late. But it is expanded and more intricate. There's no more bonuses in terms of like converting an X number of population gives you like additional happiness or whatever. But you still get the religion bonuses, like I said before, and then you can win a religious victory if you convert over 50% of every civilization's cities to your religion.
Yeah, see, there wasn't really an end game to religion. It could boost you, but there was no victory condition tied to it.
Yeah, the way I felt about Civ 5's religion system
Very
was
tacked
that
on.
there was really no downside to it. And if you completely ignore religion in Civ 6, you can lose the game with a religious victory. Because you can, if you keep your cities from being converted, they can't win because they don't get 50% of your cities. So you can lose the game if you ignore it. And it's actually got enough depth to it now that it really pays off to create a religion and keep your cities your religion so that you can get the bonuses that are affecting the way you want to play the game. Next game I play, I'm going to try and get a religious victory. But what's left? Combat. I mean, combat is Civ Combat. They've changed a few things. You had unit stacking in Civ 4, which went away in Civ 5.
Yeah, which honestly, after playing Civ 5 and then going back to Civ 4, I don't think I can play Civ 4 because I don't like the death balls.
The way that they've handled that in Civ 6, I kind of like. As you research military civics or military-focused civics, and you can start building armies and fleets and things of various types of units, which just makes like a single unit, but it's more strong, or it's stronger. So you're better off, I think, in most cases, having more numbers versus stronger single units. But if you're trying to keep your military costs down or something like that, you can create stronger units out of multiple units. It's okay. I think it's a good happy medium between death balls and the weak, what I felt like was a weak military system in Civ 5.
To me, the Civ 5 combat always came down to more of a rock, paper, scissors. And the thing is that the AI never was really able to exploit it. You always had certain civs would build a certain way, and that's about it. And even on random personality, they don't really adapt. And that's I think that's the biggest weakness of the Civ series just in general is the AI.
Yeah, I haven't played... I've played on 3 difficulties. I started on difficulty 2, which was Chieftain. I played on difficulty 3, which is... I don't remember. And then I played on difficulty 4, which is Prince, and that's the standard normal difficulty. And I didn't really have any trouble winning on Prince.
Yeah, I typically like to play on Prince, but I'm also... Well, for Civ 5, I'm running a mod that makes the AI a bit smarter. And I have noticed some difference.
Gandhi, of course, did the best when I played on Prince, and he was the only Civ that kept up with me. I played with Gandhi, whoever the guy is for the Germans in this one, Cleopatra, and Saladin.
So Hitler.
And, no, it wasn't Hitler.
Wait, that's another grand strategy that I keep meaning to go back to, but right now I have Xenonauts to work with, so... I think after Xenonauts is done, I'm going to dive into it.
Yeah.
And be literally Hitler.
The Germans I had conquered by the Industrial Age. They were useless. They overextended too early, and so they had too many small cities. And I just was like, well, I think now's a good time to just warpath through here. So I conquered them early on. And then Saladin almost took out Cleopatra, and then I came and saved her. And we fought Saladin to a stalemate, and then he never really advanced anymore. I don't know what happened to him, but he just kind of went off the map. And then Gandhi, of course, Gandhi was a force to be reckoned with. And we've been at war for like 50 years. And I mean, we're in the nuclear age, the atomic age.
Uh-oh.
Actually, I just got to the information age. I'm the only one who's deployed nuclear weapons so far, but I know Gandhi has the technology to have them. So
And Gandhi's like, do you have any of this uranium?
he's actually asked for it a couple of times. I'm like, no, fuck you.
Those rocks are glowing. They look dangerous. Let me take them off your hands.
Yeah, I'll keep you safe. But
Yeah, let me just borrow them. I'll give them right back.
I'm thoroughly enjoying Civ 6 though. I'm gonna play a couple more games on Prince, try out a few different civs, try a few different strategies, and see if I need to bump the difficulty up any farther. Because, I mean, past Prince, the AI just starts cheating
like a motherfucker. That's what I always hated about the higher difficulty civs, or civ difficulties, I should say, is that they're not making the AI smarter. They're just allowing it to cheat more and more. And that I realize that it's difficult to program an AI, particularly on a game as complex as Civ, but it's just so fucking lazy.
Yeah, but I mean, I've played 3 games, like 40 hours. I feel like I'm starting to get a grasp on Civ 6, at least well enough that I can talk about it. But I haven't quite fully explored, all of the different facets when everything's a level playing field. But yeah, Civ 6, good game. Can't wait to do it for some multiplayer stuff in the future. I almost said near future, but I don't think I'm ready to play it multiplayer yet. Like, seriously. I suspect Kyle would kick my ass right now. We can't have that.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about skipping the Humble Monthly, because honestly, I always feel like Civ is best to wait for at least the first expansion, which it's coming this month. But yeah, this is also probably the cheapest I would be able to get it for a while. But yeah, the expansion price would bump up the overall price quite a bit.
Typically, I wait until at least the first major expansion, but like $12 for Civ 6 only a year and a bit after its release, because it released late 2016. I was like, yeah, I can't beat that.
Granted, I did try to get whenever I had the price error on that one gaming site that absolutely crashed the site and eventually caused the site to just shut down because they had to issue refunds on Black Friday, and they lost all their Black Friday sales because they did a price error. I think it was sub $10 for the collector's edition or the digital deluxe or whatever, the one that gave you all the DLCs up to the first expansion.
Yeah.
But they lost all their Black Friday sales, and it was just too much for them. I mean, I can't blame them for closing up shop, but check your fucking sale prices. Don't let the intern go wild. Anyway, speaking of, well, I have no segue for this. So, Motorsport Manager Mobile. This is not affiliated, as far as I can tell, with the PC version of Motorsport Manager, but this popped up on the Google Play Store, and I thought I'd give it a look. And it's actually not a bad management game. Granted, there's some things about it that piss me off, but I'm me. So, I look at it this way. If I had nothing bad to say about the game, you'd be very suspect about it. So this is a motorsport management game. I mean, hey, it's right there on the 10. And you are managing, hey, what about that? A motorsport. A car racing team. They don't really say what type of car. I mean, it looks like sort of a Formula 1-esque car, but not quite. But anyway, you're going through various championships, building up your team, managing your drivers, managing your pit crew, and it's a very simplistic management game. There's not a lot to manage during the racing season, or you handle your crew, and honestly, a lot of it is pretty much build up to a certain point, and then fire everyone and hire better people. There's no real development with your drivers, no real development with your crew. They're just kind of static. And that's one of the things I absolutely hate. I wish there was some sort of overall development, or, be able to send your drivers in the off season to camp or something to be able to train up, or, even get them to just sit down and play a racing game so they can try to improve their stats. No, you just have to remove them outright and completely change them, which, doesn't feel right to me. There is a young driver system that's pretty much an easy way to replace your drivers if you build that up enough. Let's see. I'm looking at the screenshots to be able to go through all the different sections of this because it's actually it is more complex than I thought it would be, but it's also still fairly simple. Car development is pretty much throw as many monkeys as you can in various divisions of the car. Build up your aerodynamics to make the car more sleek and be able to have more downforce. Build up the engine to be able to have more vroom vroom and more acceleration. Pretty bog standard. And as you build up your headquarters, you're able to essentially add more crew to those various subsections. And throughout the different seasons, those slowly improve with your overall engineers, the head of the divisions being a modifier or a bonus to them. So there is a sort of development system, but not quite. Occasionally I've had the game throw up some sort of event saying, your driver was caught saying this on social media, and I'm giving a couple options, but never really specifically said, if there's been any repercussions about me saying, oh yeah, he is a naughty boy. Fine's going around, or just let him run. It's just there's no real feedback, and that's probably my biggest gripe with this game is no real feedback off the racetrack or on. As you go through the races, and this handles it in a sort of 3D-esque with dots representing the cars. Sort of like how Motorsport Manager does it on PC. Only Motorsport Manager also does full cars if you zoom in enough. Your only real options are to tell your drivers how hard to race. Try to conserve your tires. Drive pretty much standard, or really push it and at the expense of your tires, and to pit in to change your tires. And that's about it. Everything else is kind of random. I had one race where my driver was about 20 seconds ahead. He randomly spins out for no reason whatsoever. Loses the race by about 10 seconds because second place just drew right past him. I had several times where my car would break down, but would really give me no indication about why, or could I improve the reliability more in the pits, or if my driver is just pushing it too hard. It seems to be there's no repercussions about how the drivers are pushing the cars outside of just your tires are wearing down a little bit faster. Let's see what else. There's also, speaking of the race screen, it seems to have a system set up where it only updates the gap in between you and the car ahead of you and the car behind of you at the end of each sector, which each sector is 1/3 of the lap. So it's hard to tell at times if a car is slowly gaining on you because you're only getting an update 3 times a lap. And these races are fairly short for the most part. They're usually in the ballpark of 10 to 20 laps, with the very, very short tracks like Indianapolis, which actually goes to Indianapolis, which is a little bit of a shock. That's at like a 40 lap race because it's such a short track. But because of the low lap time or low lap counts, you're not given a lot of information. And also the feed of what is going on in the race only updates sporadically. So it may say, oh, you've overtaken whenever your car just spun out, and he's just fallen back 3 spaces. But if you're not paying attention to that, you wouldn't be told. There's a lot I like and a lot I dislike about it. It's been a good time killer, just something to mess with. And it is a free app, and there's actually no ads to it whatsoever. The only monetization of this is a pay to essentially skip feature where you're able to just buy in for a large amount of money. Then you just pretty much negate the build up for each tier of race. Because as you go up through the championships, you may have been kicking ass in the Britain tours, where you have the top of the line car and everything is going great. you go to the American tour, which is the second tier, you're back at the fucking pack again. I mean, completely. There's no carryover whatsoever. And honestly, it's kind of a letdown to be able to it's kind of a letdown to do that, because you kind of want to just, after finding that out, just hang out and dominate for a while and build up your racing team. You know, there's a certain amount of money that you'll get from sponsorships. And if you build up too much without having a winning team, you'll slowly just hemorrhage money, because all the upgrade to the headquarters costs a certain amount of money. All the extra crew costs so much money. Getting better drivers costs more money, unless you're just getting them from the young drivers program, which they may not be the best, but they're also dirt cheap. Upgrading your crew chiefs costs money. And also, sometimes the sponsors are fucking annoying. There was one time, actually I shouldn't say one time, there was more than one time, that the goal for the race was to win. Alright? I get on the podium, and the Twitter feed has my sponsor call me a fucking loser, pretty much, because I didn't meet their expectations. Sorry I didn't win. I got second. Is that not good enough? Why don't you go take that lemonade stand and cram it up your fucking ass?
Yeah. In general, podium finishes are, what everyone shoots for. If you get first, that's awesome.
Yeah, but on this, it's a binary. You'll have a set sponsor challenge for both your qualifying and your race. There's no practice. That's something else that's very annoying, is that there's no practice session. You only have the actual qualifying, which is one session, and then you have the race. It'll give you a suggested setup for your car based on your crew chief. But yeah, that may be great for for your particular drivers, because you may have a driver that is better handling corners with a different setup. And because you don't have anything beyond the qualifying, which the qualifying is a 10-minute session, 10 or 11-minute session, and you have to do the outlap, which goes from pit, goes around the track once. Then you do however many laps that you set the driver to run. And then you do an outlap, which is the driver, after finishing the lap, comes all the way back around the track and pits in. Well, because of how they handle the tires, you only really get one or two really good laps per setup. And especially on some of the longer tracks where it's a 1:30 to 2-minute lap time. So that's a definite failing on the game. You do get to the point where you start to recognize, okay, this track, it's probably either aerodynamic set to neutral or straight, which is just less downforce or the medium amount of downforce, and either neutral or top speed, depending on the length of straightaway. So you could eventually start to eyeball it, but there really should have been some sort of practice session, particularly with how different driver personalities kind of act up.
So I did some quick Googling while you were talking, and this is made by the same people who did
it is because it's named Christian West on Google Play, and I wasn't sure, so yeah. I'd rather err on it not being affiliated than being affiliated and being wrong.
So what it is the mobile version is basically just a stripped down, simplified version of the PC game. And they recently released... Yeah,
there's a second version, which looks like it's more complex, but it's also a paid version. And there's this thing about paying for a mobile game. Maybe it's just where I'm outside of the culture. Not really a fault of the mobile game itself, but not really having any sites to be able to parse these games, or not having enough knowledge of the games themselves. I always kind of hesitate on buying a mobile game unless I am able to play it first.
Yeah. So I haven't found like a specific article that says this, but there's some speculation that a couple of people in like comments of stuff that I'm looking at are saying that the first version is a combination of an advertisement for the main game on PC and also sort of a test to see how much interest there is on it. And they simplified it for mobile so that they wouldn't overwhelm people.
I mean,
And the
it's
second one is much closer to the PC version, but they made it paid so that people who are interested basically would be the ones who would be getting it.
I mean, it's not a bad game. I may go for the second one because I have like $7 or $8 just from Google surveys. You know, the Google Play surveys, they ask you every so often. It's like, have you heard of Target? Yes. Here's a dime.
Yeah, I get those sometimes too.
We recently saw you were at the grocery store. Did it suck? It did. Here's a quarter. But yeah, maybe I'll go for it. I don't know. It does look like it's a lot more complex, and it looks like it actually has fuel. So
yeah. Cool. Is that it? Did I interrupt you before?
No, that was pretty much it. I was on my outlap anyway. It's not a bad game. It's definitely whet my appetite for mobile for Motorsport Manager, probably on PC instead of the mobile version. Granted, they did have a free weekend at one point, and I was just not able to sit down and play it. So it's something that's it's been on my radar before, and I saw it pop up on the Google Play Store, and it's like, well, I'll give it a shot. And it wasn't bad. I mean, the only monetization in it literally is a pay to skip feature or if you completely screw up, be able to correct yourself. Granted, I'm not sure what happens when you run out of money because I've been very careful about that. Especially whenever sponsors start to get a little bit bitchy. And there is some sort of popularity thing going on where if you get the sponsors too happy, they demand too much of you. But if you get them too upset, they start to be, bitchy even more. So you need to find a happy medium.
Yay, happy medium. Okie dokie. My turn. The next game on my list is The Ship Murder Party. We played this for stream night for a little bit on Thursday.
Yeah, I wasn't in the mood to play it, and I was also not feeling all that great, so I skipped this week.
Yeah, that's fair. But I mean, think The Deadliest Game, if you ever read that.
Or how about this? This was stolen, or this was the template for Assassin's Creed multiplayer.
Yeah. Completely forgot about Assassin's Creed multiplayer, as I think most people have.
Probably for a good reason.
Anyways, you are on a ship or various other nautical themed levels. There's like an island and some kind of like tropical resort or something like that as one of the levels that you can play on. But you're on a ship with, I think you can put up to 32 people in, I think.
Are you saying you're on a boat?
I'm on a boat and whatever, because that song was stupid. But the game starts, or the match starts, you're given a target to kill, and the objective is to find and kill your target without getting caught by the security staff on the ship, or being killed by whoever it is that's targeting you. And I don't think that you and your mark are ever targeting each other. I'm not sure if that's specifically a thing, but I've played quite a bit, and I've never had my target also be who's targeting me. So you wander around these big levels, and there's a lot of stuff to interact with. You have needs. You have to eat, drink, sleep, go to the bathroom.
Yeah, I was about to say, don't forget to poop.
And those provide sort of spots of vulnerability for you to find your target and kill them.
Yeah, catching people with your pants down.
Yeah, because they have to go into like a room, like a bathroom, to go pee. So you go in there behind them, close the door, then nobody can see you, and you murder them. There's lots of other things that you can get on the ship. There's different weapons you can find in like lockers and bags and cabinets and stuff. Weapons, clothes. Every time you change your outfit, it resets your picture to just like a black silhouette. So it's a little more difficult for people to find you, because then they don't have the handy-dandy picture to show them what you look like until they interact with you, and then it shows up what the person is. And that's pretty much all there is to it. You can play solo with bots if you want, or you can use bots to fill out the roster. It was just Cube and I actually that played. Jim and I think someone else showed up, but they didn't have it, so they just talked to us and watched the stream while we played. So it was Cube and I think I had 10 bots in the match with us to, fill out the level. And the bots are not very good. They can kill you for sure, but they're kind of dumb. You can find your target and just follow them until they walk into a room, whereas you can't do that with a person because unless they're really unobservant, they'll notice that, oh, hey, that person just keeps following me. I might be their target. And if you preemptively kill someone before they attack you, nothing happens. If they've started attacking you and you manage to survive and kill your attacker, then they're dead for that round, and they can't come back and kill you. Like, you still respawn and you can walk around the ship and take care of your needs and find new stuff for the next round, but you lose your target if you get killed by your target after they've identified you. But, you can randomly kill people too, and it just pops up, so-and-so has gone on a bloodlust, but there's no penalty for randomly killing someone. And that can actually be a good strategy to get extra money after you've killed your target, because the goal is to get enough money to win the round, and you get different amounts of money for using different weapons. And certain weapons are worth more, and after you've used a weapon once, its value drops considerably until you kill a target with another weapon. So, guns are really easy to kill people with, but they have a low base value. Whereas if you kill someone with, like, a cane or an umbrella, you get a lot more money for doing that. Cause it's more
but you don't want to kill people with a cane too much, because then you binge out of shape and, it becomes a lot tougher to walk with.
Yes. But whenever you kill people, there's a chance that they'll drop a wallet with some money in it. So after you've eliminated your target, you can just go around killing other people. And as long as you don't get caught and thrown in jail on the ship, then you can keep making money. If you get caught trying to murder someone, you get sent to jail for a certain amount of time based on how many crimes you committed when you were caught. And the more weapons you have on you, the more crimes you've committed. And also, if you're caught in the act of trying to kill someone, you have an additional fine. And so they take money away from you, and then you have to sit in jail. I think the maximum penalty to be in jail is 60 seconds. But the good thing about going to jail is that you can get all of your needs met in jail. So at least that time can be productive, setting yourself up for when you get out of jail.
Yeah, saying they're pooping.
Someone can get arrested and follow you into jail and kill you, but that's pretty counterproductive because they have to pay the penalty to go to jail. So that cuts into how much money they're going to make on the back end. So a little bit of risk reward there. Overall, it's a fun game. It's pretty much a dead game. There's a few people that have created public servers that still run, but
I'm looking at the Steam charts. 15 for 8 minutes ago with a 24-hour peak of 16.
Yeah, the subreddit occasionally, like once a week to a couple times a month, organizes games for people to go onto the the existing servers and play. But in general, you have to use the reason you have to do this is because something went weird when this game was acquired by a different developer, and the code to run the in-game server browser is fucked up, and they say they can't fix it, and they've done a remaster, and the remasters works because it's legal stuff.
Yeah.
But the older version, the matchmaking doesn't work. So you have to either use a program like Evolve to set up a LAN or spoof a LAN, or you have to use one of the existing public servers or create your own public server. So it's pretty much a dead game unless you have a bunch of friends who want to play it. But it's still really fun. I think I'm going to try and organize another night at some point in the future. Maybe once I get the new stream schedule put together, give people enough lead time to actually get it installed and ready to go. Because it would be a lot of fun with a lot of people. Cube and I were having fun whenever we would get each other's targets, or I'd randomly be like, that's definitely a person, not an NPC, and I'd kill him anyways. And that's good. The banter is good. And that's what makes the game the most fun, just the banter you have. I played it with Katie last week sometime as well. And she really liked it. And we were each sitting here in the office, and she can see my desk, but I can't see hers. just because the way they're set up in the office. I'm pretty sure she was cheating a few times. Like, the game has ways to help you find your target. Like, I think it's 15 seconds, you get an update on where they are or where they last were. And so you can track them down that way. But, I mean, Katie's not very good at video games. And so I don't think she would have figured out that system that fast. So I think she was cheating a little bit, but it's fine. We still had a good time.
Yeah, I'm looking at the ship remastered, and it loses its charm a little bit, I think. The developers of the ship actually has another game of this sort of genre called Bloody Good Time. Have you ever heard of that one?
No, I haven't.
It's the same basic idea, but you're on a movie set.
Okay.
I mean, it's also a dead game. I mean, it's more dead than the ship. So that should tell you something, but it seems to be a little bit more refined gameplay-wise. But you have your needs that you have to handle. You have different characters that I'm pretty sure are just cosmetic. And it's also $5, so.
Gotcha. But yep, that's the ship murder party. Fun game. Have to play it again sometime.
Yeah, speaking of a game, I don't want to play again, is Weakwood Throne. This it tries to reinvent the ARPG, and it does some things that are pretty bog standard. Then there's some other things that are just fucking infuriating. For one, let's talk color palette. Or shall I say eye rape? Just go look at some of the screenshots. I mean, those are some bright colors and some very contrasting colors, and it's very distracting. It has a day-night cycle, but honestly, I never played it long enough to be able to get through the daylight cycle because the gameplay is just very, very clunky, particularly its dodge mechanic. The dodge mechanic, well, for one, it's not on our face button. It's on one of the triggers, which is odd to begin with. Not unprecedented, but odd. But this is a game that focuses a lot on dodging and movement. And they have both dodge and jump on, your mount, but it's a skateboard because actually I have no idea why the fuck it's a skateboard, but go with me here. They have them both on the left trigger on the controller. If you tap it, you dodge. If you hold it for a fraction of a second more, you go through this long sequence where you're jumping on the skateboard and you're a setting fucking duck. And you will get hit if you're trying to dodge and you start to jump on your skateboard. It's one of those things that it's very... if I spent enough time with it, maybe I could get used to it. But then, okay, I died because I wasn't able to dodge correctly because I wasn't able to hit the dodge fraction of a second that I was supposed to hit it, but where there's a dodge instead of, I'm going to spend the next 3 or 4 seconds going through a long animation to jump on my skateboard, which I still don't know why I skateboard. So, okay, I died. Having trouble with dodge. That's pretty obvious I'm going to have trouble being non-living impaired. I was at the starting town when I died. When I loaded up the game again, I was not at the starting town. I was at the next town with creatures that were way, way, way stronger than me. And I had no access to the starting quest anymore because I had no idea where the starting town was based on where I was now because the map system, didn't cover that. And that's when I pretty much put it down.
This sounds like a game that's no bueno.
This is a game that could be fun if it wasn't so fucking infuriating. There's also this odd thing where they handle it almost like a twin-stick shooter, where your left stick... granted, I was playing with the DualShock controller, so maybe that's part of the reason why I was having trouble with the dodge, because there's a certain amount of throw going from for the left trigger, because it's a analog trigger, and it pretty much had to be fully depressed to be able to register any of them. Oh, yeah, either trying to dodge or jump on the skateboard. And that's the thing, is that it puts a unnecessary delay. You know what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
Because face button, tap it, done. It's a lot longer to be able to hit that trigger. But it does this odd dual stick shooter like I was talking about, where your movement is controlled by the left stick, and you're kind of aiming your attacks with the right, and then you're hitting the I think it's B for an attack, but as you're attacking, you're stepping forward. So you do this weird, like lunge forward, then start backing up again if you're trying to retreat from something. Once again, if I spent more time with it and it didn't fucking infuriate me with knocking me out of the starting zone and not having any idea of how to get back to it, maybe I could have stuck with it. But that's how do you launch a game and have it do that? That's what I want to know. Well, outside of being Steam Direct trash and probably with absolutely no quality assurance team whatsoever, no playtesters,
little or lack of QA.
Because that was pretty much right after the tutorial I died, and because I just didn't have any health potions, because it wasn't B to attack, it was A, because B drops your items. That is on a face button. And the thing is that, typically A and B are, your confirmation and drop is like on usually X or Y. That's pretty standard, right?
I think so.
I mean, it's not, so easy to hit and absolutely no confirmation to drop your items. I'm not sure if I grabbed a health potion and I accidentally dropped it because it's so easy to drop items in this game, or if I just never got them because, I was weakened from having to deal with all the stuff in the tutorial, some of which, fighting on a very small island with enemies that love to do charge attacks. That's going to hurt. Especially whenever you're not nailing the dodges because of, an oddball mechanic. So I died and got teleported, and it wasn't like I was very far in the game.
Yeah, it doesn't sound very good. I do contrast what you said about everything's being too bright. I really like all the bright colors, but
it's distracting.
I think I could see that, and I think that's more subjective.
Yeah.
I also only have the screenshots to look at. There could be more egregious examples, but
the
screenshots on the Steam page do display some of that high contrast color.
Yeah, well, load up the screenshots into pseudo full screen. Click on them and tell me that that wouldn't be very eye-rapey after a while.
That is very bright. Although the screenshots have some dark stuff too.
Well, that's the day-night cycle. So the second one is, I think, about nighttime.
Okay.
And once it goes full nighttime, it gets very, very, very dark. So you don't want to turn up your contrast because then you'll just get blinded during the day.
Right. Makes sense.
And also, maybe it's just as a pet peeve, or not really pet peeve, but a subjective thing. But also, the game feels sort of not finished with all the hard edges on the islands, particularly that first screenshot. It looks like there should be some sort of wiggly coaster or something, but it's just a square island, literally, and that's part of the tutorial section, and that's prevalent throughout the game. It's just
I see what you mean.
It's just sort of an unfinished look to things.
They're probably just using a really simple
asset
engine designer asset set, something like that.
Yeah.
Because I've seen several games look like this, but they tend to be puzzle games.
Yeah.
With it the square.
Yeah. Part of me thinks that this is some sort of asset flip. I should have suspected something when. Well, are you on the store page for him?
Yeah.
Okay. Click the developer name and look at their other game. I should have expected great quality.
Waterx Melon. YouTuber's Clicker.
Yeah, I should have not expected much quality. But I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I gave him a shot. And it's very clunky. I'm not sure why there's so many positive reviews on this game. But then again, a lot of these don't really have a lot of time under their belt either. Granted, I don't either, but I didn't leave a review. I'm just bitching about them on a podcast.
Some of these feel kind of jokey, like this one. Amazing, but amazing is spelled wrong. 2D RPG. Add kawaii 2D girls and the game will be perfect. This one is in, I think that's Russian.
Not as much fun as Torchlight / Diablo, but still a great game for ARPG lovers. 7 out of 10. Thumbs up with 1.1 hours played. I mean, part of this makes me feel like all their friends are leaving reviews.
Perhaps. I'm not going to spend a ton of time investing this, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've already spent too much time on it already. Your turn.
Alrighty. So my next game.
Yeah, I had a review copy of this one for a while. I just never played it.
Is Don't Make Love. I got this from Keymailer. And this is an interesting little game. I initially requested the key because of like, haha, schlocky game about...
Actually, no.
Praying mantis sex, because, that's what...
Yeah, you need to find a new fetish.
Like. But it's actually not. It's a really in-depth, interesting little conversational type game where that you can choose to be either the male or the female praying mantis. And in case you don't know, when praying mantis mate, the female kills the male. Almost every time. Like 99.99999% of times. So you are whichever partner in this couple you choose to be, and you want to have sex, but you love each other, so you don't want to die or kill your partner, depending on which one you pick. And you go through this set of conversation, and you have to type in your own answers. There's some simple responses like smile, frowny face, sad face, angry face.
Without penis.
Hold hands, hug, and kiss. And sometimes those are the appropriate responses to make. But otherwise, you have to type out your responses. And you can't just simply say yes or no to every single question. Because if you do that too many times, the other one will be like, I'm getting upset that you're not actually talking to me. I don't feel like you're listening to me. So you have to actually type out longer words. Or, sorry, not longer words. Sentences. And punctuation is important because you can say the same thing with different punctuation and get a different response. I don't think that this is like in depth. I think it's just looking for keywords or certain phrases to give you a certain response. And I'm sure it's somewhere. I only took 5 minutes to try and figure out if it was what it was, but I didn't find exactly how it was matching this conversation. And you can steer the conversation a lot of different ways. There's a bunch of different endings for each side, and you get achievements for each one. For example, you can choose to, as you go through the conversation, eventually you can choose to have sex if you're the male praying mantis, and then you get an ending. Like, you don't see any ending, like, cutscene or picture or anything. It just ends, and it says, your conversation is complete. I wonder if it would have been different if you chose to say different things or something like that, and you can restart or switch to the other partner and go through it again. And I've gotten a bunch of different endings, but obviously I haven't gotten all the endings. It's a cute little in-depth game. The soundtrack is nice. It's just fun. It's fun. And I wasn't expecting it. I didn't read anything about the game. I saw Don't Make Love, saw 2 mantises, and I was like, haha, this is going to be a silly, schlocky visual novel. And I was pleasantly surprised by a nice, in-depth conversational piece.
You know what I'm more scared about? That you actually found a decent visual novel.
Hey, broken clocks right twice a day, right?
Unless it's painted orange.
Hey-o. But, yeah. I mean, that's pretty much all there is to it. How much does it cost? Because, like I said, I got it from Keymailer. Okay, it's $7. I don't know if it's worth $7. It's a sort of experimental type thing. Unless you're really trying to be a completionist and get all the achievements for all the conversational endings, you'll probably get an hour of enjoyment out of it. That's about what I got out of it. It's definitely worth a couple of bucks just to throw to an experimental developer who designed something that I feel is pretty unique. I've never seen anything quite like this before.
Yeah, I think this is their first game as well.
If it is, it's a good first outing. But I don't know if it's worth $7. If you like that sort of experimental thing, I think it's definitely worth the $7. If you're a little more curious, I'd wait for it to go on sale. It's saying here the historical lowest price was only like $5.50 on the most recent Steam sale.
Not
but this
much
is
of a discount,
practically this is a fairly new game. It's come out in like the last 6 months, so probably by the summer sale it'll be 50% off or so. I think it'd be worth that, like $350.
Yeah,
It was a cute little experience.
itch.io trying to find more about them because it looks like they're coming from itch.io, which, hey, for one Steam Direct isn't a mistake.
Yeah.
Let's see.
But it's a fun game.
I just want to see if they made anything else. It looks like they have a few other things on itch.io, but honestly, nothing that really jumps out at me. This looks like their first real outing for something beyond just very, very basic games.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, it's a good sort of first, I guess, real game. Something beyond just a learning project or, a school type
Beyond
project.
very, very basic graphics and putting in, looks like some effort into the actual writing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cute. I like it.
Okay, so my turn?
Yep.
All right, so we've talked about one of my psychotic fucking hatreds. How about another one? How about throwing me into a tutorial before I even start the game? Tactera did this.
Oh, this is the one I was talking about, what was it, 2 weeks ago? This came up and I was talking about this. Sorry. Carry on.
Well, this is a VR title, but it supports non-VR games or program or computers. It's a program that has a VR mode, but it has a non-VR mode as well, at least in theory. This triggered some fucking motion sickness in me like you wouldn't believe. Mostly because of just how fish-eyed it is. I bar park this at about 120 to 130 FOV, which is just absurd for a 16:9 monitor. Usually,
that's pretty wide.
Yeah, usually I go somewhere between 90 to 100. So it was doing some weird fisheye stuff, and it made it very uncomfortable to play to begin with. Second of all, because this is made with VR in mind, it's essentially a swarm RTS game played on a virtual tabletop, and you're sitting and clicking or I guess waving around whatever motion controller you have to direct your troops. Pretty basic overall, but because of the VR slant on it, and because they don't put you in a place where you could go into the options and change things, the base camera is set way far back to the point where I couldn't read the text because it was all on the virtual tabletop. So I was having to kind of guess. It's like, okay, I think I can make out what that's reading if I sit and kind of squint and lean into the monitor. Not a good first impression for a game, I gotta admit. This shows me only having 0.1 hours in. I know I played it longer than that. I think the Steam hour counter is kind of screwed up this week. Because I know the others...
Yeah, it does that sometimes.
I know the others I spent more time with as well, but it's pretty much a bug standard swarm RTS, and that you're trying to take over different nodes with and just swarm them with units. Granted, it may get more in-depth later on, but because of the FOV, it was very hard for me to play because there was this just, fish shot going on, and even looking down at the virtual tabletop and trying to command things there was this kind of swimming effect with just how the fisheye was going, and between that and the grid, it was just nauseating. Maybe it would be better with a headset, but since I don't have one, I can't really say if it would be better or not. Any questions so far? You said that you brought this up at some point.
Maybe it wasn't on the podcast.
Yeah. This doesn't seem familiar to me.
I think I said that I had a VR game that I got a key for because I was trying to get my VR certified on Keymailer, and I got this game and I hadn't played it, but I couldn't remember the name of it. I don't think, but I have this game and I intend to play it at some point, but I haven't yet.
Well, they throw you into the tutorial as soon as you boot it up, and you have no way to get to the options menu until you actually complete the tutorial, which is a psychotic fucking hatred for me. I hate games that do that.
Yeah, I do too.
Because usually the ones that do that are also the ones that read my resolution wrong. Granted, I don't think this one did, if memory serves correctly, but for some reason, I've had games that would just, say, oh, you look like you're doing a little under 720p, and here you go. And, on the LCD screen, that doesn't look good. Yeah, I may as well take some of your KY jelly and just spread it across the monitor because it's about as fuzzy.
That'll give you a nice soft focus.
So that's what you call it. I mean, maybe if you're looking for this type of game in VR, it would be all right with a headset, maybe, because I'm guessing that the field of view thing would be less of an issue, and I couldn't find a way to turn it down in game, or at least in the non-VR version. And I did do a little bit of research on the field of view of the different headsets, and it looked like they're not nearly as high as this. I don't know why this runs such a high field of view. It's just weird. I mean, you could kind of see, take a look at some of the screenshots. You could see the fisheye effect.
Yeah. They might be, one of the things to help mitigate VR sickness is to have better peripheral vision. They might be trying to do something to simulate that.
Yeah, but they really should not do that in the non-VR version.
Yeah. I don't really... I just have to play it for myself to check it out, really. Because I don't have any questions that I think you could... I don't think you could answer for me. Like, I don't mean that in a bad way. Just like, it's one of those things, like...
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty bog standard sort of swarm defense or swarm RTS. Not quite, because it does a few different things. It has different upgrades and you're able to build up your units. But there's a lot of fiddliness to it because of... I presume that it's meant to be ran with the VR controllers. So, a lot... more responsive and doing more than one thing at once if you're getting good at it.
Yeah.
And this just doesn't handle it all that well with keyboard and mouse. Hey, I gave it a shot. And it said that it didn't support or didn't require VR. You can play it without VR mode. I respectfully disagree.
Maybe I'll check this out this week on purpose just to compare with you.
Well, I would suggest one thing. Bring a barf bag.
I tend to not get motion sick. So.
I don't either. There's only a few games that it's really triggered it for me, and this was one of them. I mean, there's just something about... other ones have been Overlord, which just how the camera kind of swayed, and actually that had a bit of a fisheye effect to it as well. And the original BioShock triggered it for me. Not nearly as bad as these, but, it was enough to make me uncomfortable and not really want to play it.
Yeah. I mean, motion sickness is definitely nothing to laugh at.
No, it's something to spew over.
Hi-yo.
Anyway, you're up.
Right, so this is my last game, and I sort of bookended my two longer discussions to try and give my throat a rest. I'm not sure how well it's worked, but we will see.
Well, considering I've heard every so often. Do you need a cough drop?
I've muted my mic a few times so that you wouldn't hear.
Speaking of cough drops, I think I'm going to have another.
Right. You enjoy that. So Lost Odyssey.
I think you did more than I do, though.
Lost Odyssey was released in the mid-2000s to 2007, 2008, depending on which region you were in, as an Xbox 360 exclusive JRPG. This was designed to be... or designed as an attempt to push more Xbox consoles in Japan.
Yeah, that really worked out for them.
But I think it only sold 100,000 copies or something like that in Japan. It sold more than that in the US, but not enough to garner a sequel, which is really sad because I'm about to make a bold claim. I think Lost Odyssey is the best traditional JRPG in existence. It sort of came out around that time when the sort of, I guess you could say, the JRPG leader, Final Fantasy, was making changes, because it came out between Final Fantasy 12 and 13, I believe. Final Fantasy 11 was an MMO. Final Fantasy 10 was really the last, or the 10 line was the last traditional JRPG, which is strictly turn-based combat, as opposed to
Pseudo RTS, real time. It's hard to really nail down what Final Fantasy is combat wise. MMO combat,
right. Sort of, but Final Fantasy 13 is automatic combat, and you basically just sort of give general suggestions for your people to do things in battle. And it's in real time. There's no turn-based part to it. Everyone just
12?
as soon as they're
the single player.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. Sorry, Final Fantasy 12.
That's why I was a little
and also
confused.
13. Final Fantasy 12 and then Final Fantasy 13 took that a little bit more to the extreme. And then Final Fantasy 14 was another MMO.
Yeah, 15 is
15 is just like an ARPG basically, or an action RPG.
a boy band ARPG.
Yeah, but I still want it for the boy band. But anyways,
I still need to go back
and
and play Final Fantasy 12 at some point. I have an actual copy of it. No piracy involved, no emulation involved.
Nice.
It's just I never sit down and played it.
But Lost Odyssey came out between Final Fantasy 10 and 12, around the same time as Final Fantasy 11, I believe. But Final Fantasy 11 was an MMO, so that's
I'm looking at
a completely different thing. It was developed by the original creator of the Final Fantasy series. He wrote and directed the game, and it's got the original composer for the Final Fantasy series who put together the music. So the story is very Final Fantasy, but it feels like sort of, I don't know, the grandest evolution that old school Final Fantasy storytelling could be. Like, it's more and bigger and weirder
and spikier
in that JRPG sense. The music is amazing. There's nice orchestral tracks. There's rock break-ins for certain aspects. There's some J-pop in there too. Amazing soundtrack. It's got an excellent turn-based combat system that doesn't have too many weird gimmicks. There's one, and then there's a couple things that it does really well, which I'll get to in a minute. The weird gimmick that it does in the combat system, like that makes it any amount active, is you hold right trigger to like time your attacks if you're doing physical attack or a physical attack, and the closer you get to like the center of the ring, the more damage you do, and you have a higher chance to do bonus effects that your weapons can have. And that's it. You can honestly ignore it most of the time if you don't feel like doing it, and it doesn't make too much of a difference aside from the additional critical hit chance. It's got a really simple sort of old school inventory management. Instead of having like 40 different things that you can equip and manipulate, you have weapon, bonus, like item that has an effect on combat or your health or something like that. And then you can equip, not armor, something else that affects your defense. I forget what it's called. It's got like a special in-game name. And that's That's it for item customization. Where the game really shines is its skill customization system. So the gist, without spoiling the story too much, is that you play as an immortal character. Like your person is immortal, and there's a few other people in the game who are immortals.
And you're trying to kill each other.
No, you're not. You're all trying to work together to solve a problem. But the immortals can't learn skills in the traditional sense like the non-mortal characters can. So you have to have, or like the mortal characters. So you have to have the immortal characters in a battle with the mortal character, and you have what's called a skill link. And as long as both characters survive the battle, you get points towards learning a new skill that the different mortal characters have. Which can be kind of annoying, but it's a neat little thing that helps you mix and match your party so that everybody stays at pretty close to the same experience level, because the game does do that JRPG thing that it does where it splits you up at certain points. And if you have an underdeveloped character, you're pretty fucked. But the immortal characters, they can't actually die in battle, which is really interesting. So they can get knocked out and they're down for a turn, but then they self-revive because they're immortal, so they can't die. So they use that really well, and that can be a good part of the strategy for how you do battles. If everyone gets knocked out at once, you lose, but you never have to worry about reviving an immortal character with, this game's equivalent of the Phoenix Down, which I think that's really a neat addition to combat, and it lets you be a little bit more risky. You don't have to worry quite so much about healing everybody all the time. You can focus on other buffs or debuffs or things like that with your support characters. It also goes back to that era of the old school JRPGs where they have the pre-rendered cutscenes because, game engines weren't as good as they are now. So, I mean, the game itself looks all right. I mean, it looks like a mid-2000s game that had some higher production value put into it, but those cutscenes are beautiful, gorgeous cutscenes that remind me of like the contrast in like Final Fantasy VIII with the ballroom scene, or some of the stuff in like Final Fantasy IX and X. Really well done. The opening is amazing too. It's got a really great intro that really sucks you in, and I can't remember if it tells you right off the bat that you're immortal or not, but the opening first 15 minutes really give you a sense that your character is something special and way more powerful than everyone around them, because you're fighting essentially an entire army by yourself and they can't kill you. And you find out later that like they do this by starting you off at level 10 and all the other enemies are at level 1, which I thought was a pretty cool way to do that. But great cutscenes, great story. The voice acting in English is a little bit rough. I mean, the best way to play these games is in Japanese with English subtitles, which this game has.
And
but
the original Klingon.
Yes, but just for comparison, I did it and listened to some of the game with the English actors. And I mean, they're trying. Some of them are all right. Some of them are not. The main bad guys probably got the most comical voice actor from all the main characters. But it does have some beautiful storytelling moments. There's one that made me sob more than I did when playing To the Moon. Like I was ugly crying. There were sobbing noises, not just a stream of tears going down my face.
Did it involve praying mantises?
It did not involve two praying mantises, no. There's some scenes that make you really mad. Characters being mistreated that they shouldn't be. But they play with your emotions quite a bit. There's some other really touching scenes, some other scenes that make you sad, or they do a couple of genuinely good scary horror bits, like top-notch storytelling. It's a JRPG, so it's really fucking long. I looked up online to see how far I was, because this is a digital copy, so there's no disc swapping or anything. And I've been playing this so far for about 30 hours, and I'm only on disc 2.
Wow.
The game starts out pretty linearly, but within the first 6 or 8 hours, you get the token vehicle, which lets you drive around a portion of the world, which opens it up a lot. And then there's another vehicle you get later that lets you drive around the entire world. So it does open up, but it starts you off on a pretty linear path. It does have an annoying quality. Probably the worst part of the game, and the worst part about traditional JRPGs, is you can't save wherever you want. You have to get to save points. And there have been a couple of times when I wish the save points were much, much closer. In areas where there's going to be a lot of fighting, it is generous enough for the save points, so if you lose, you don't lose too much progress. If you do lose a boss battle, you can just restart the battle. It does have a checkpointing system for that. But in general, if you get killed, you have to go back to your last save point, wherever that is. So in combat zones, it's a little bit more generous, but in stuff where there's huge swaths of story, save points can be few and far between. I told you about a time where I went 2 hours between save points because the entire thing was story stuff. Mm-hmm. Just wandering around from area to area, doing a couple of sort of side quests to progress the story, but they were like, go find this or go talk to this person, and then just cutscenes. So that can be a bit frustrating, but that's only happened twice in 30 hours, and for a JRPG, that's not too bad. If you're not into this sort of game, that might ruin it for you, but people who enjoy JRPGs, I think, have a higher tolerance for that sort of stuff just because they're used to it. On top of that, I can't really say too much more without spoiling it. I think we talked about a topic, which I don't think we've brought up on the general topics, or, we've talked about on air, mm-hmm. but I think this game is going to be part of that.
All right.
As one of my things. I want to finish it to make sure that the story doesn't fall apart towards the end. Because JRPGs, typically you play those for anywhere between 40 and 80 hours. I'm thinking this one's going to be probably close to 80 or 100 hours long. And if they really fuck it up at the end, then that can ruin that whole experience. So I want to get all the way through the game before I say yay or nay. But I really do think, based on both what I remember from playing this years ago, I played it when it first came out because of the trailer or the TV commercial they had for it is a really good commercial. You should go look that up on YouTube. The Lost Odyssey TV spot. Excellent. But from what I remember from playing it years ago and my experience with it again, still holding up to sort of the haze or the lens of nostalgia, I think that this is the best traditional JRPG in existence because it was made right at the tail end of traditional RPGs. So it's got a culmination of, at this point, 10, 15 years worth of development into this type of game. And it was sort of the swan song for the genre at the time. Really, really good. I think everybody should play it if you can get a copy. Unfortunately, there's no emulator for it on PC.
Yeah, the 360 never really got an emulator, at least yet. There is work on it.
Yeah. If you do have access to an Xbox One from somewhere, you can play it. Xbox One, this game is backwards compatible on it, and it's available from the digital marketplace. You can pick up a physical copy somewhere pretty cheap. This game has not maintained great value over the years in terms of, monetary wise. It's just sort of a weird, obscure thing. So you can pick up a copy really cheap on eBay. And if you have access to an Xbox 360 or an Xbox One, and you like this type of game, play it. You will enjoy it. It is an excellent JRPG. And that's about all I can say about it without just spoiling everything.
All right, so should we quickly move along because we're running long?
Yes, we are. Although, taking into account we bantered for a bit before we got to games. Probably hit 90 to 100 minutes for game talk. But yeah, we can quickly move along. Yeah,
let's mosey to, pitch a game?
Yeah, let's do pitch a game. You go first and you give me a chance to drink some water and rest my voice.
And just hack up your lung. So,
yeah,
I have a lot of various choices on my game list, and I had one that kind of stood out to me. This was kind of inspired by, a few MMOs have shut down over the years. I want another superhero game, but a more sandboxy open world, sort of how City of Heroes was. I never got to play City of Heroes, but there's been a lot of that ilk that's kind of just fallen by the wayside, and we don't really see superhero games outside of just licensed games. What I want is create a superhero game with a fictional city, sandbox, for the most part. You could have your story moments as well. But my idea about it is you start off as a low-level hero, a very underpowered hero. And as you go around doing good, you slowly build up your power and build out your power set. And I want to lovingly steal the Nemesis system. So as you defeat villains, very cheesy villains. Let's go complete camp with this, which I'm sure just sold this to you, right?
Oh, I was already sold before then. I actually played City of Heroes. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, so, full camp is a possibility. Have it where, it can be serious, but you could also have your campy hero and powers as well. But as you defeat villains, it's a sort of a reverse Nemesis system where instead of, dying to, become a Nemesis, or seeing them power up, you're the Nemesis to all of them. So you're seeing them try to improve and them infighting to try to become your rival. With various story missions as well, which your rival or rival at the time shows up and tries to destroy the city and that sort of thing. Typical comic book stuff, but have it where it's more character driven, and that may be a little bit beyond the current technology or the effort from some devs. But it's something that we haven't really seen a lot lately, is just the superhero genre in general. and usually they are licensed games. So this is something that could be a unlicensed game, and just have it where, you're out, doing your thing, and maybe have an expansion where it's flipped on its head and you're the villain.
Well, there was a City of Villains, so...
But I was trying to think of a good game that could use the Nemesis system without, just being a direct copy of the Nemesis system. And my first thought was some sort of superhero game with your rogues gallery.
I was going to say that makes perfect sense because most superheroes have a rogues gallery. You've got your occasional, like, Wonder Woman who doesn't have very many because she kills all of the bad guys. Which, smart idea, Wonder Woman. But most superheroes have a rogues gallery, so that's a really good game idea. Also, just a quick aside about the Nemesis system. I can't believe we haven't seen that in more games.
Yeah, maybe it's maybe it's some sort of trademark that we don't know about, or it's just a bitch to program.
I was going to say it might be a trademark thing, but still, I mean, Warner Brothers publishes other games that they could license it to, I imagine.
Yeah, I was just trying to think of something to use with the Nemesis system that isn't just loot box heavy. And I'm just seeing this as, build out your costume, build out your powers as you do things. Maybe there's some sort of association or something that, or, you could join different hero groups to try to, specialize in a particular type of crime. Or hell, even have a co-op, where you have your hero and the sidekick.
That would be awesome. I've always seen myself as a sidekick instead of a hero, just because like plucky sidekicks and one-liners and stuff like that.
Lovable decoy.
Yeah. Plus, I like to play support roles in lots of different types of games, and sidekick is always support role. They're always the back.
And I'm also seeing if this is done well, have it where various powers can play off of one another. Sort of how Divinity does the different elementals.
Yeah. And
have it do it with that. So, someone that has a wind breath, for example, project fire into it, and you have a fiery tornado. Granted, that would probably a little bit more lethal than most heroes would want, but you could also have it where you could be an anti-hero.
Like the Punisher.
Mm-hmm. Or Deadpool.
Yeah, or Deadpool. That's a really good idea. I like it. Is that all of your
pretty much
pitch? Well, we are just our cycles have synced up today because my game I'm pitching is also a superhero game, but this is a horror game. So think of Batman. Batman is the Dark Knight. He moves through the shadows, surprises his enemies. Well, this is a horror game where you play the bad guys, and you're trying to complete whatever your evil scheme is. You're a henchman, not one of the main bad guys, so you're a guy on the ground. And Batman is coming to try and stop you. And so you are trying to hide from Batman and complete your objective. And he's sneaking around through vents, sneaking up on your fellow henchmen and, beating them up, taking them down, that sort of thing.
Did you ever look at the multiplayer for Batman Arkham Origins?
No.
You're pretty much describing it.
Well, I want it to be a game that's more like what was the Alien Isolation?
Yeah. Let me tell you about this, and we'll see if how close it matches. There's 3 factions. All right. There's 2 bad guy factions that are trying to fight one another, which is pretty much a standard. I think it's a shooter. But then there's Batman and Robin, who are off on their own. They're against the other 2, and they're using stealth and just surprise tactics to be able to disrupt things and prevent both sides from achieving their goals. Granted, not as horror focused as yours, but the same basic idea, I think. Granted, it didn't do all that well because it's a tacked on multiplayer to a single-player Batman game that didn't do all that well, honestly, because Arkham Origins was kind of panned for a while.
Yeah, my idea is similar, but it's purely single-player, and a lot more focused on one location and one sort of objective. Like, one of the bad guys' layers. I'm not a big Batman fan, so I don't know tons of bad guy villains beyond like the Joker and Two-Face and the Riddler, but I know he's got a lot.
Yeah.
So, a sort of bad guy base, and Batman is trying to stop some kind of Sinister's plot, and you're just a guard. Or, you know, maybe like one of the higher up henchmen so that you're not just like on the first floor and you get taken out and then that's the end of the game. But you have to try and capture or kill Batman, prevent Batman from stopping you. And it's, you know, very horror focused, like Alien Isolation. Because, I mean, some of the, especially in like the comics and the animated series, as opposed to even like the Christopher Nolan Batman, which is the darkest we've ever seen Batman on camera. Like in comics and in the animated series that I know of, Batman is really terrifying. You get plenty of scenes and shots where he's like stalking people, and you know, Batman is fairly non-lethal. There are instances in the comics and in the animated series where he has killed before, but I mean, obviously, Batman's biggest thing is he doesn't kill unless it's like no other option.
I'm sorry, but this entire time I'm thinking Metal Batman. Have you ever seen that?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, I'm going to have to link to you that later.
Wait, I think I have seen that. It's a music video thing, right? Yeah, I have seen it. But anyways, so, you know, I mean, in the comics and in the animated series, Batman can be incredibly dark with stalking and using his gadgets to freak people out, using his sort of deep, my voice is too screwed up. I probably couldn't do a deep Batman voice.
Batman.
Using his deep Batman voice to terrify the shit out of people. That's what I'm thinking. And, you know, Batman jumps out and it's like, oh, Jesus, can I fight him off for a second and get away? Or is he going to capture
Quick, soil yourself.
Yeah. And then it's over. So that is my idea. And actually, that was the idea that originally prompted me to come up with the idea for Pitch a Game. So that's actually my last idea on my list. I need to make some more ideas.
I only have about a dozen more.
But yeah, Batman horror game. Very underutilized portion of Batman. Because most Batman games tend to focus on him punching and kicking people. Mostly because of the Arkham series.
Yeah, or, you know, jumping around like crazy and punching people one at a time. In a combo.
Yep.
Until there's that little bastard with the electric knife. Combo breaker.
Sure.
So, let's skip the general topic because we are going to run out of time, I think.
Oh. Alright, I'm good.
No, you're not. Because you're you.
That's right, so I'm awesome.
You know, being delusional must be very useful these days.
It really helps keep me sane that I'm so delusional.
Either that or you just need to, you know, pull a Kyle and just be drunk. Speaking of Kyle. What? That's one way to lead to the community corner. Yeah, make sure that he never writes in again.
Indeed. Well, he didn't write in this week, so.
He had a tweet.
Well.
Yeah, Kyle tweeted us a Cyanide and Happiness comic. This is how you earn the title of professional drinker. And did you see the comic that he linked?
Yep, I saw that.
Yeah. I think he's trying to get a title. Let's see. Jim chimed in with, they need to get the people who made Kung Fury to make the Duke Nukem movie.
Oh, that's good. That's good. And that's what happens when I laugh. Although I'll be editing that out so I don't ear rape people, but...
What?
Coughing. You got the ear rape.
And no, it wasn't good for me. Let's see, Ghost Shark. Taking votes on the first story game I want to stream for when I have time to do so. I think this the poll is actually closed by now, but I wanted to cover it anyway. You got a 50-50 between something else, as in, you know, something that wasn't on his list, and I think Minecraft story mode. So, you know, better luck next time, Ghost Shark, right?
Nice. That's a good reminder for me to talk about streams later when I talk about stuff on my channel.
And let's see, and Chemist chimed in. This was a couple weeks ago, but we ended up skipping the community corner last week because we had a hard cutoff like we do this week and did a very cut down show. Chemist, remember me struggling with Area? Well, here's me beating Noctura something melody and era all in the same run. Just under 90 minutes with Crypt of the Necrodancer. I need to play that at some point. He sent it to me for Christmas last year, and I downloaded it. I just never loaded it up, which tends to be a problem with me for games because I'll intend to play it, and I tend to play a lot of games.
Indeed.
Yeah, that was all the tweets. And if you were to tweet us, VGL Podcast on the Twitter, or if you wish to scare the hell out of the malls that have been infesting our mailbag, VGL Podcast at gmail.com.
Awesome.
See, I remembered it this time.
Well done. Alrighty. So, time to do the doobly-doo over on Discovery Q.
Oh, that's
Go for the
terrible.
theme song.
Even by your standards. And I got one pretty much right away. Since we were talking JRPGs earlier, I got Final Fantasy XII, The Zodiac Age. This is one I have no idea how good it is because...
Did they release that on PC?
Yep.
To get port? Oh, I actually quite enjoyed Final Fantasy XII.
Yeah, for some reason the title is... There we go. Now the title copied. It is running de novo, so that's a strike against it if you care about that sort of thing. It's running 60 FPS though. It looks like it's a pretty decent remaster. There's, of course, some people disliking it, but it's Final Fantasy 12. I don't really know a lot about 12 because I haven't played the original game, but this is something I'll probably get at some point.
Final Fantasy XII is, I think, a good introduction to modern Final Fantasy if you've never played a JRPG before. It has a mix of traditional elements and modern elements. There's still a good chunk of the turn-based combat system. It's not 100% automated like it is in 13 and beyond. But it's simplified compared to previous Final Fantasy games, so new players could get into it. It also has a lot less random battles because it's the first Final Fantasy game where you could see the enemies on the map, and for the most part, you could avoid combat if you wanted to. There were certain areas that had random monster instances, but in general, you saw all the enemies on the map. So, it's a good introduction. And it's not the best Final Fantasy game.
I know it does have a very slow
worst.
start. That's why I just never got into it.
Yeah.
But it, could be... it's going to be something I'm going to play at some point. Maybe I'll just have to load it up on the emulator instead of digging up my copy, but...
Yeah, that's true. You can emulate the original PS2 release for free. So,
Yarg! So, do you have
that'd be
one?
a good place to check it out. No, so far not.
Oh,
yet.
I got another one.
I got distracted talking about Final Fantasy. I've only looked at 2 games.
Well, this is my second game. Freeman Guerrilla Warfare. This is a mixture of a strategy game and first-person shooter. This has been done a few times. This is an early access game, and it looks like it has some people complaining about lack of content. So, but FPS, it says sandbox strategy. I'm assuming this is RTS though, based on it being a first-person shooter. Looks interesting though.
Yeah, it popped up on mine too just now after I finished coughing.
I mean, granted, it has random YouTuber in the trailer, which is a mark against it, but
not necessarily a good sign, but not necessarily a bad sign either.
At least I think that's some sort of YouTuber
That's just become sort of an industry trend.
that needs to burn in hell.
It's not my favorite, but if I had to pick random YouTuber or streamer advertising your game versus say, microtransactions, I'd pick YouTuber every time.
True. I mean, it doesn't look too bad overall. All right, let's see. How long is it going to be in early access? See, 6 main areas. They're working on day-night cycle, which could be interesting. Unique squads. They're planning on staying in early access at least till the end of the year, so plenty of time to cook. That's actually encouraging to see them spend that long. And my third game is another one. Do you have one?
Maybe. Yeah, this looks good. This is this is the 9th game on my list. I finally got one worth talking about. Death or Cress.
Well, put it down.
Pop a link over. To scroll to the right place on the notes. I keep going
Scroll.
Because I'm making cough notes at the bottom. Death or Cress. This looks like some sort of action RPG, sci-fi themed, where that you are escorting settlers to colonize a world. It looks pretty rough, but it's in early access right now, and it just came into early access. Like it released into early access today. I'm not sure if that's just weird camera angles or if it also has some sort of strategy element to it, but I kind of like the idea of this. Looks like it's in Unity, so that could be a plus or a minus.
Yeah, it really depends on
assets.
Whenever you load it up, it has the generic Unity launcher. I mean, that's always a bad mark in my in my books.
Yeah, and it's just got like Unity advertised on the page, so I don't know if it's using the free version of Unity that requires that or not. It looks like it's using assets, but they seem to be themed together, at least at what they're showing, which would indicate that it might not necessarily be an asset flip. It also looks like there's some crafting to it as well, maybe like you're building the colony.
I'm not sure about this because current state of the game. The current state of the early access version includes one of the two playing main characters, the beginning of the whole story of the game, and the gameplay of about 20 to 30 minutes depending on the player's skill. And they're playing on 2 to 3 months of early access. That's a bad sign.
Yeah. We'll see. I like the look of it, and this will be something that I watch just because I'm a sucker for sci-fi and a sucker for survival crafting type stuff. So
let's be perfectly honest. You're just a sucker.
Depends on what I'm sucking.
Oh my.
Oh, thanks. You put the title up there for me. I was going to come back and do that.
I got my third game out of 3, so I'm 3 for 3 right now. We Were Here 2. This is a sequel to, or is this a sequel or a reimagining of the original We Were Here, which is a free-to-play cooperative game. This is asymmetric co-op, as in, the original has one guy that's out exploring the mansion and the other one that is trapped in a pseudo library that's able to search through the books and look at the different maps to try to help the person that's out in the mansion solve the puzzles. And this is a refinement and expansion on that game. And We Were Here is actually on our co-op list, so this is going to be one to keep an eye on. See how it does, because it's not in early access. It's a full release right now. Alright, but there's some mixed results. There's some people that don't like it. There's some that do. I need to do some more research on this one. But it looks fucking beautiful, doesn't it? Very artistic, huh?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what to really call that art style.
Well, I mean, it's obviously gothic,
yeah,
but it's got sort of an airbrushed cartoon look to it, but it's not like cell shaded.
Well, it's very dark and brooding, I think, is what really comes off.
Yeah, I think that this might just be like the lighting that they've chosen to use, because it looks, for lack of a better word, standard.
Yeah,
but the lighting is
maybe it is the lighting. Because that's something that a lot of games kind of negate, or not really negate's not the proper word. Kind of
neglect?
Well, I was going to say overlook, but neglect. It's just, how much lighting could really make a game look a lot better, even if it's not exactly a graphical powerhouse. So, We Were Here too. And
yeah,
that's going to be one, I think, for us to play at some point.
I'd be down.
You have another one?
Yep, I've got one. Another Lost Phone. This is the sequel to A Lost Phone. If you're not familiar with that, you, in the game, you find a phone that is someone else's that they've left, and it's unlocked, and you can go into it, and you can explore all of their apps, their messages, social media, work-related stuff. And there's a lot of things that you can do with it. For example, you can choose to respond to messages and emails that you get. You can try and, if I remember correctly from the first game, you can try and find the person to get their phone back to them. You can screw with them. It's sort of more of an experiential type game. There's not a ton of gameplay to it, aside from just like seeing what you can do whenever you respond to characters or whatever. But it's really interesting to try and figure out the type of person that they've created in here. It's just a fun little experiential game. It's not very expensive either. It's only $3, so you can get both of them, the first and the second one, for $5. But the first one was a cute, fun game, and supposedly this one has more interaction than the first one, so that would be nice. Make it a little bit more of a game and a little bit less of just I don't know, like a mobile walking simulator, I guess. It's an experience. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, I picked up another one.
So, real quick, that was the last game on my list. Do you want me to start another list?
How do you feel? Because you have two. And I'm only about halfway through my queue, and I got a good queue this week.
Okay, I'll start another queue.
Okay, my next one is Total War Saga: Thrones of Britannia. This is a Total War game, and I really like the Total War games. It's just I don't have the CPU to really play any of the modern ones. And this is a historical, all of them have been historical, but this is a more focused about early Britain. And I think this may actually be the earliest Total War game we've seen history-wise. Throwing out Total Warhammer, of course. This is 1871. Or sorry, 871, not 18. 871 AD.
I was going to say, okay. That might be how.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. Yeah,
games?
that's what I was about to say. I'm not sure when Rome is. It may be slightly earlier, but I mean, it's a modern Total War game. Modern as in new Total War game about Viking invasion of Britain. I mean, do you need anything else there?
Boobs. Although, if it's the Viking invasion, there's going to be a lot of rape and pillaging. There'd be boobs involved. Nope, I'm good.
Yeah, so Total War Saga, Thrones of Britannia. And this is the first in sort of a mini-series of them doing a more focused historical slice. Granted, Rome and, a Shogun, they are typically a slice of history, but this is a more focused on a particular point. And this is just, Britain fighting off the invading Vikings. And I got another one immediately. I got
Keep going.
Okay, so how do you feel about sandbox vehicle builders?
I love sandbox.
How about trail makers?
Okay.
This is a sandbox vehicle builder with multiplayer in it. Actually, it doesn't look that bad. Pretty much a Lego style as you would expect with these type of games. Very cartoony art style with. They actually have. What is that? Some sort of dodo/turtle animal? Screenshot.
Oh yeah, interesting. That does look like a cross between a dodo and a turtle, or maybe a dodo and a triceratops because it's got like a horn on its face.
And a couple spikes on its back, but yeah, it looks like it released into early access just a few days ago. I mean, I've picked up a few of these vehicle builders, and they're usually pretty fun. It's with this being focused on multiplayer, though, that's interesting. Looks like they already have a good variety of vehicles available just based on the screenshots. Types of stuff to build. Which that's really the bread and butter of these games. It's just what you can build. But it's also going to be down to, just how much effort you're going to put into making your own content. Because this looks like it's going to be sandbox, at least for the time being. I'm reading through the early access blurb. Let's see. They want to release the 1.0 sometime this year. With some sort of adventure mode as well. So that's actually promising. So there'll be some sort of content. I mean, it's one to keep an eye on.
Indeed, I got one. I went through an entire second list, and I'm halfway through a third list, and I finally got another one. Salem Witch Trial Murder Mystery. This looks like a choose-your-own-adventure game set during the Salem Witch Trials. It says that you're trying to investigate, and discover the secrets of what happened to a family who is murdered by who they think is a witch.
Well, they could just try to build a bridge out of her.
So, I am getting a ton of hidden object and horror games. And I don't like either of those, so I just keep hitting skip.
Yeah, what did you do to get hidden object?
No clue. Maybe the Wolf Among Us triggered that, and because I've, Discovery queued many more games than you have, because at one point I had Discovery queued every single game that's on Steam. It's just like, hidden object. That's like in the same ballpark, right? Here you go.
Okay, so I got another one. This one has some mixed reviews, but what the hell. Pixel Shopkeeper. This is a shop management game with some inventory puzzle management thrown in for good measure. Interesting, pixel art style. The inventory management, I think, is going to be what really makes or breaks it, though, because it's backpack Tetris, for lack of a better term. Diablo-style backpack Tetris. So it's trying to fit everything you can into your backpack to take back to your shop to sell. Interesting, to say the least.
Look at that.
It really depends on just how much meat there is on the bones. Granted, it's not a very expensive game.
Yeah, it doesn't look bad, but it doesn't necessarily look like something I'd be interested in.
I mean, it's not very expensive either, so...
Yeah.
Let's see, what else? Looks like this is their own game on Steam.
I got one. Murder Most Misfortunate. This is a murder mystery visual novel style game where you play a detective who's trying to solve a murder at a dinner party.
Why does that sound familiar?
At a mansion. It says you own it. Probably a key mailer thing.
Okay. Yeah, I was about to say, there's something very familiar about this game. Is that a bad sign? It's like, well, this sounds very familiar. It's because you own it, you idiot.
Oh, I got one. I got another one that looks good. Gears of Eden. It's an indie space adventure game where you are some sort of excuse me, rover type vehicle on a moon or another planet, and you're trying to figure out what happened. Looks like there's some RPG or inventory management or some kind of survival.
Well, I'm still on my original Discovery queue, and I have another one.
Gathercraft, yes. How much is this? Oh, coming soon.
Okay, I have Candleman, The Complete Journey. This looks like a 3D sort of puzzle platformer where you are a sentient candle trying to bring light to the darkness. This was a Greenlight game, so it's not a Steam Direct game. It looks interesting. It really depends on, just how well they play the theme, because they talk about, despite only being able to burn for 10 seconds, so how do they get around that?
Magic.
Well, it's a walking candle, so... But I do like, I'm looking at the trailer, and as you progress through the world, it kind of evolves and sometimes blooms to life, or you see things pop up. It's interesting.
All right, that's the end of my third queue. I'm not going to start another one because I've got 4 games now. 5.
Yeah, it only took you that many.
Well, I had several shit queues this week.
I mean, I only did one, and I had more than you.
Yeah.
And I can't even say that. It's just me being with low standards. But what the hell? Let's do one more. Atmosphere, or it is a puzzle. I guess platform would be the proper term for this, where you're trying to essentially just get to the end of the level, and you are a ball that's trying to just avoid various traps and go across uncertain paths. It's an interesting looking puzzle platformer, I guess is the best term for it. There's just something about the way the camera looks, though. It has sort of that tilt shift to it that makes it look a little off. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You see what I'm talking about with it?
Maybe slightly. Tilt shifting tends to make things look like models.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. There's just something about how the camera looks that makes it look like it's not just a ball rolling around, but toyish almost.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. I don't think I see it quite as much as you do, but maybe a little.
Yeah, it's interesting at least. And considering, this is a genre that's really become popular on Steam since Steam Direct, because this is an easy type of game to build. but this is one that actually put some effort into it.
Yeah.
And it looks like, you're trying to get, either save or get home to your female ball. So
This reminds me a lot of Marble Blast Ultra if Marble Blast had had a medieval theme. Like, I know I've seen other games like this since then, but this one really strikes me the most as the old Marble Blast game.
I mean, it doesn't look bad. It's definitely not for everyone.
It's pretty cheap.
Yeah, I mean, it's on sale right now. I think it just came out, so it's on a release sale for $2.39. I mean, that's fucking cheap.
Yeah. Do you have any more? Or
No,
was that your
that was
last
my
one?
last one in the queue. That came up very last. It's like, that actually doesn't look bad.
You had 8. So you had 2/3 of your games were good.
Yeah, and I threw out a couple that were decent, but they were horror, so that pretty much disqualifies them immediately. I had one that was a roguelite VR game, so yeah. And I could hear Jim's like, I could hear him typing, roguelite VR.
I only had a 15% success rate with 5 games out of 3 queues.
Well,
no good.
Q was very good to me this week.
Mine was awful. I probably had 15 or 20 hidden object games.
How many just Team Direct trash?
A few. More than a few. Some of them were sequels to hidden object games I've seen before, so probably not Steam Direct, but a lot of them were like, this looks terrible. Or mobile ports. There's a ton of hidden object games on mobile.
Yeah, I did get a mobile port, and I just skipped right past it. Yeah, I didn't need that in my life. I get enough of that.
Indeed.
So, part of the podcast where you go first?
Yippers. I'm going to take a quick swig of my hot tea.
Hope it's not too
Which
hot.
is now more like lukewarm, but it's better than cold for my throat, so. Anyways, coming up on my channel this week, specifically in the week leading up to the podcast, because I was sick, I haven't done any video production or editing, so the last little spurt of Kerbalcast, the Kerbalcast archive that I have done so far will be up. But otherwise, there's nothing else on my channel this week. I'm hoping to record some tutorial stuff for Elite. I was going to do that because there was one of the weekly community goals was a mining one. And I was like, oh, this will be perfect to do some tutorial stuff. And then I got sick and sat in my recliner and played Civ for like 40 hours this week. So, I mean, it's not terrible, but I didn't get to record anything. Hopefully that will be rectified, and shortly after the release of the podcast, you will see the first video on my Elite tutorial series. Otherwise, just more Kerbalcast archive that I keep putting up. And I've got some other stuff that I've got rolling around in my head, like always, but no promises on anything. I pretty much just do YouTube for fun, and that's doubly now since next week?
It's towards the end of the month.
Okay. But coming up soon, anyone who doesn't meet their new requirements can no longer monetize videos at all.
Yeah, they moved the goalposts quite a bit. You have to have 1,000 subscribers and just under 250,000 minutes watched in the last 12 months. And they haven't said that if you have to maintain that or not. If you have to maintain that, that's a hell of a cutoff because, that's a lot of hours.
Yeah. And both of us are on the lower end of that, but there are a lot of sort of niche channels that have less than 1,000 subscribers.
Well, it's not just that. There's people that have more than 1,000 subscribers, but don't
have the minutes.
Or vice versa, because there's a lot of tech channels out there that do tutorials that get the minutes, but people don't subscribe to them because they're there for a very particular tutorial and they're doing a lot of niche stuff. So I really think in the long run, this is going to hurt YouTube because it's just going to kind of homogenize all the small creators because they want to do more mainstream stuff to try to get those past those goalposts. And who's to say that they won't move them again because this is twice in the last 2 years.
Yep.
And the fact that they didn't grandfather in people that have been monetized for, let's say, close to a decade, like I have, or at least been available to. Fuckers.
Yep. But if you want to find my stuff on the YouTubes, get me closer to the minutes watched and the subscriber limit, her subscriber count. You can do so by searching for Gaming Psychologist. I've gotten a few new subs in the last couple of weeks, both on Twitter and on YouTube. So thanks, new podcasts or new subscribers. And speaking of Twitter, you can find me on Twitter to see all the tweets that I make, political, non-political, about sickness or video games or whatever, over at JMA4707. And if you want to watch me stream games, which those are now regularly appearing on Thursday night, you can do so over at twitch.tv/jarthur4707. I will be posting a tweet tomorrow, which when you listen will have been at least 2 days ago, about what game we're going to be playing this week. I haven't quite decided. I kind of really want to play Civ 6, but not a lot of our friends, or not a lot of the community has it, and I'm pretty sure Kyle would kick my ass, so don't want that to happen. But I'll figure it out. Post a tweet
I
about
thought
it.
you liked, getting a little bit of punishment.
Every once in a while, but not that kind of punishment. The kind of punishment I like usually has whips.
Oh, my.
Wink.
Well, I'm sure Kyle could be
and-
accommodating.
And you can find me over at twitch.tv/jarthur4707. And you know what else you can find over there? Some of our community members. Kyle has recently done a stream or two, and Ghost Shark seems to be trying to get into doing somewhat regular streams. And you can find them hosted over on twitch.tv/jarthur4707, which is sort of the unofficial VGL podcast Twitch channel. There's also a couple of people a couple of other people who are auto-hosted. Left Stick Down is on the list. We are talking about, well, I have been talking with him, the guys over Left Stick Down, about doing some kind of crossover thing.
Again?
No, that was 1v versus 2v.
I forgot which one it was. I still feel bad about that because he had a very terrible internet connection, so I would start talking whenever there was this long pause, and, he was still talking.
Yeah. I'm going to talk to them and try and set something else again with them too, but they haven't been posting regular podcasts.
Yeah, they've been very
much.
intermittent.
But still, I'm going to try and set up some more collab stuff this year. We did a couple things last year, and cross-pollination is always good. And also building our own community is good. If you want to be a Twitch streamer, and you want the official VGL Twitch stream to host you, let me know. You can send me stuff on Twitter or on our Discord channel, or send an email to the podcast.
Yeah, I've been thinking about doing a Twitch stream myself, especially with YouTube showing me out. Granted, I think I'm going to be waiting a while. I definitely want to get at least a second monitor for it, to be able to monitor things. I mean, I could, in theory, do it right now with my phone, but that seems a little bit cumbersome. Well, I'm not going to do face cam because I absolutely hate face cam.
Yeah. Well, if you do, I'll auto-host you.
Yeah, and stop hitting your mic.
I didn't hit my mic.
I heard the squealing of the damned.
That just might be my voice. But I definitely did not hit my mic that time. Anyways, if you want to be my friend on Steam, you can do so by sending a friend request to jarthur4707. I accept all friend requests and love to talk to our lovely, lovely podcast listeners.
So you've wished to let them know exactly what episode of the podcast you're coming from. The password for this week is Starman. Starman. Right, you get the reference now, don't you?
I do. I do.
I heard that moment of Starman. What the hell? Oh. And for those who don't know, look up Talking Heavy.
Yep.
So my channel, I skipped a day on Civ 5 just because I wasn't feeling very well, and my sleep schedule's been absolutely screwed, and honestly not getting many views. As a matter of fact, the only person that's watching, I think, is Kyle. And probably, tearing his hair out. It's like, you're doing it wrong! Even though he tells me that there's no such way to do it wrong. I bet I'm finding a way. But my Inca gameplay will be returning towards the end of the week, hopefully. I mean, I still need to sit down and play it because, but Civ does take a lot of time to be able to set up and record. I'm playing on Prince difficulty, but I also have one of the AI mods installed, so it's actually a lot tougher than you would think. Let's see. RimWorld is holding steady. That's going to be my primary concern about getting recorded, though, over Civ, because I actually have views there. So Netherwallop is going to be continuing. We've got our defenses set up, and we had the great emu chase.
Okay.
Yeah, there was an emu in our base, and we can't let that transgression stand. We had to destroy the emu. Turns out emus can run fucking fast. Thankfully, it wasn't hostile. More panicked and started running away, but we had several people chasing. Oh, a ghost shark showed up for the colony, and he's a nudist, and he's a woman.
Okay.
Trying to remember anything else about his character, but that was about it. Matter of fact, I was having trouble recruiting Ghost Shark until I stripped him down. And then turns out, he kind of liked it. It's like, oh, these are my people. So if you wish to join the colony, you can do so by just dropping me a line over on Gaming with Caffeine Rage. Divinity is still in the planning stages of coming back, but with Jared constantly having the plague and us having to have business meetings about 100, that's been on the back burner for quite a while. And the Sunday Sampler should be back this week. Last week, let's put it this way. The 3 games that I played that weren't mobile were all games that I tried playing for the Sunday Sampler. That ought to tell you the quality I had. Those were the good ones. So I'll try to get the Sunday Sampler this week. I need to get the evergreen content that I have planned out for it in case I have another week like I did last week. But, it takes more planning and more time. And actually figuring out how I want to handle it. But you can find all that over at Gaming with Caffeine Rage on the YouTubes, or see me tweet somewhat randomly about who knows what on the Twitter, Gaming with CR. And speaking of the Twitters, you can also find the podcast's official Twitter, VGL Podcast, on Twitter, or just email us. Once again, it's vglpodcast@gmail.com with your letters, voicemails, and gaming-related topics or questions, or, we also need to get stuff for 100, so, send that in. If you still help pay for this absolute madness, you can do so over on Patreon, patreon.com/VGLpodcast. Our supporters and patrons are greatly, greatly appreciated, and they did help provide us with our Podbean account, vglpodcast.podbean.com, which hosts our RSS feed and the show notes. Or you can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever Jared shoved us. Most likely in his butt. Well, he did get the KOI out, so has to use it somewhere, right? Our intro and outro music is On the Ground by Kevin McLeod. You can find his work at Computech.com. And Doobly Doo for the Discovery Queue can be found, same artist, same website. And,
as always, as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice. Bye now.
You're starting to get that smoker's cough.
I am. I am indeed. Anyways, bye-bye.
Bye.